happening?
I'm gonna let you see it first this time.
going on?
I know it's been a long time since we both been up here together. So I
What's
was like, I'm gonna
happening?
see if let you take off first.
Man, my guy, my big homie next to me. This is happening.
Yeah, it's been a minute, man. It's been quite some time.
Yeah.
As y'all know, tonight we're gonna do something different. We're gonna make this a discussion. There ain't no slides. We didn't put in hours of homework between the two of us. But the goal of tonight is it's going to be a new format that we're going to implement at the end of every month, which is to have a conversation that grounds some of these concepts and also expands the context. What we realize is that a lot of times when we introduce a lot of these new principles or laws or models or whatever they are, people are trying to integrate them into older models, which then corrupts the model. So a lot of times when I have one-on-one conversations with people, I'm somewhat confused on what we're talking about. And then they turn around and say, you made this up. I'm like, no, you don't. You totally just changed the whole context of the model. So I think by us just having a ground level discussion, and in this discussion we hope this is a time where Shabisha's going to control the narration and the dialogue. And this is a time for you guys to like disagree, agree, challenge ideas, dive deeper into the ideas. Let your curiosity run free, but don't show up to this class with the intent to just receive a monologue from us introducing these different ideas. Even though this class has always been designed for a dialogue, but quite often it kind of falls into a monologue space. And so tonight, the hope and the desire is to make this a model where we encourage back and forth dialogue, conversations, disagreements, even shit we might disagree with something, I don't know. I will say this, that our disagreements are not either one of us trying to anchor on us being right versus wrong, but our disagreements is based upon our observation, because our path defines us. We don't define ourselves. We're more or less students of the game. We don't create the game. So before we get started, I want to just check in with you, Corey. Is anything, every time we come back from a 2-week break, there's always something top of mind. Is anything you want to just kind of, real quick before we turn it over to Shabisha, anything on top of mind?
I think I'm back on the application movement. It's the conversations that we have a lot of times, and this whole year has been a lot about theory and describing emotions. And when you describe emotions and how they behave and how they work, it really gets intellectually, your brain almost tells you that you experience it.
Yeah.
But like when you in it, it's a whole different world. So it's like this is an ongoing, ever building process, and the name of the game is when you in the moments. That's the real shit. The real shit is not here. The real shit is in the moments. And that's really what I've been on, and what I've been telling a couple folks is because even up here teaching it, you'll mess around and know a lot of things, but your brain won't catch on till you 2 minutes in. So it's a constant working on yourself.
It's funny because there's students, historically in the 8 years we've been teaching, they get really good at Tybo. Remember the Tybo class?
Yeah, Billy Blanks.
yeah, they think they're really good at Tybo. And then the first time they get into a real fight, they realize all they know is Tybo. So they can sit in this class and damn near sound like us teaching this class. But there's one thing I want to mention that's directly tied to what you're talking about. A few weeks ago, I asked a question: are you doing business or are you doing you? And I don't think folks understood how powerful that comment was. So I wanted to kind of kind of extend that idea so you can see it working in the real world. So there's this rule around war that says if you go to war, you must be very clear about your political agenda. You don't go to war to get somebody back. You don't go to war for moral reasons. You don't go to war because you don't like somebody. You don't go to war because you just want to take their stuff. You have to think about what is the win in the end. Why is that important? So let me give you an example. You're standing in front of a mosque. You have an army, right? And there's a mosque, and there's friendly fire coming from the mosque, and you're in the Middle East, right? You have multiple choices. Do you call in airstrike? Do you storm the space, or do you retreat? Right? Those are all three great answers based upon friendly fire and your soldiers being shot at. Mm-hmm. But if you're clear on why you're there, and your job is to establish a power base in the Middle East, your answer is clear. You retreat. Because if you storm, you will disrespect their spiritual space, and you will lose the friendly support of the community. If you fire on them and you fire at their spiritual space, then you may turn the whole nation as well as other Muslim nations against you. So if you're not clear on what the goal is, your day-to-day decisions is not binary, it's optional. You have so many options. So if you running your business from a space of doing you, a lot of decisions you will make will lean towards valuing yourself. So for example, let's say you're in a meeting with 4 people in your staff and everybody's arguing, right? If you're doing business, you're like, oh, this is a great moment to extract innovation, creativity, right? Emergence. But if you're doing you will engage the conversation to be right so you can feel good about yourself and feel like you're that superhero to save the day, undermining your actual growth of your company. And for Black people, why is this so important? We're still suffering under the trauma of not feeling like we're good enough because we came out of slavery, Jim Crow, crack era. So all these things are kind of like, and then TV just reruns all these damn stories of us losing battles, right? So deep down inside, subconsciously, you have this idea that you're just not good enough. So then when you build a business, a lot of times we build businesses to amplify our personal value. I'm running a company. I'm an entrepreneur. I got this. I'm doing these things, right? But that very nature, if you don't learn how to think about I'm building a business, not building you, then you're often at the point of making certain small decisions day in and day out, you're making the wrong decision because you was the agenda, not the business. Mm-hmm. That cool? Mm-hmm. Shabisha, it's all yours now. Where you want to go with that? As I sip my sparkling water.
You enjoying this?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. You run the shit now. We're gonna follow you. Let's go. We're in the back seat talking shit.
Okay. So actually, where you just left off saying you started with, are you doing business or are you doing you? And we've talked about all year what happens when you don't feel like you're good enough in business. But it's kind of easy to go past that because it's like, well, okay, I don't feel like I'm good enough. So the question I have for both of you is, A, how is that showing up? Because I don't know, what if I don't know what to look for to say, if I don't think I'm good enough, I may not think that about myself. Or I may not recognize, I may understand how that shows up if I'm talking to a friend, but I don't really see it when it comes to how I'm thinking about business decisions, how I'm thinking about business opportunities. So can you guys go into, when you say you don't think like you're good enough, what are some things that you see? What are some things that people can be looking for so then when we're not here and it's coming up, we can have more awareness?
Here's a deal. Everybody in this room, including the people up here, there's gonna be times where you don't think you're good enough, period. Something's gonna hit you hard enough in the face somewhere to where that insecure version of you, that damaged version of you is gonna peek out and say those words to you. It's gonna happen. Like nobody in here is immune from it. So the idea of this class is not to say we're gonna teach you tools so you never ever say that you're not good enough. That's a lie. This class is designed to give you tools that say it's gonna happen, but you can quickly bounce back when you have these tools in your toolbox to work on your self-talk, your honesty, your truth, all of those things that you can question yourself back up to where you're supposed to be. And so it's not about if it's going to happen, it's how rapidly can you get back to the square where you're ready to get back on.
I would add, one, I think some of these questions in their very nature can never be answered so simple in a panel structure. Some of these questions are lessons, like they're 3 or 4 part classes because there's multiple levels. When it comes to like complex systems, simple answers sometimes causes to false diagnose the problem. Because often when something is complex, it requires understanding multiple impactful answers, right? There's some simple signs. It's not saying it's all, because once again, depending on what stage you're in your business, it can show up in different ways. But one of the most common ways I can tell you that a person is running a space from, or moving from a space of personal value versus running their business, is if they were to just record themselves speak, they will constantly talk about their business in the context of I, my. They won't be able to talk about the business. I'm building this thing, right? And realizing that when you build this thing, it's almost like if I'm lifting this heavy tree, right? Me by myself, I might not be able to budget. But if I understand what's required to lift that tree, I value the participation of others to give me leverage to move that tree. Mm-hmm. But when you think it's your situation, even when others participate, somehow you still reference yourself in the context, right? So it's this idea that you disconnect from the actual very process of what you're doing, which is building a business, mm-hmm. and you start to identify with you and its relevance to you. And you'll hear it in such a subtle Wait a minute. So first of all, stop, please. Hold on a second.
Jesus.
Hold on a second. We got the famous Daniel. So y'all know Sydney took over the slides. This is Sydney, by the way, y'all. This brother's been handling slides recently. All right. We can just give him a hand or something like this. Can we show him some love? Okay. The godmother, we said the godfather. That's the godmother of 510 Media, as well as godmother of this whole design, brand, idea, principle. She's also my thought partner in a lot of creativity. So I can come to a meeting and say, I think I want to do this. And she'd be like, well, hold up, slow down. Maybe you should think about it this way. And through our back and forth, we discover some innovative ways. So this is the godmother. Can we give her the godmother a hand? That's Danielle. So, I don't know what we were talking about before then. I just know I'm very blessed to see her. Anyway, go ahead. I don't know what you're talking about. Shit.
Okay. Well.
Oh, back to that.
Yes.
It's like, okay. Had a conversation, matter of fact, with Shakina about business strategy the other day. And she said something like, she would tell somebody to put something back, but she would make references to how I was offending her, or I'm trying to take care of my gym. Could you at least put it back? And what I explained to her, let me show you how I would change that same comment. I said, if you're moving from a space of business over you would say to the customer, instead of you saying, can you put that back because I worked so hard, can you please put that back? You would say, look, for the rest of my team and the staff to continue to enjoy this, it's important that you put this back. You see the difference? I pulled myself out the equation and made it about what we're building here, right? My brain started to see this association between how the ecosystem feeds the other part of the ecosystem, as opposed to, I built this and you do this offends me. Like, there's no offense to me, right? You can even tell in the feedback loop, right? And once again, I don't think this deserves a class. I think we're doing it a disservice to try to narrow it down to a few categories. But if you're still being offended by feedback, you don't feel like you're good enough. Yeah. I'm gonna keep it simple.
Yeah.
Because once you realize you're building something, building a business, you're not doing you realize feedback is your lifeline. Right? Because I can't tell you what my customers like. Your customers are changing so fast that even if you met your customers today, next week they're already somebody different. Mm-hmm. So if you're not constantly listening to your customers, you can't copy and paste out here in the real world. This shit is heuristic. It's not algorithms, right? And so because you can't copy and paste like that, then feedback is literally your eyes. So, but you can't even develop those eyes if you don't feel like you're good enough. Because when somebody says your business is flawed, what you heard is you're flawed. And now you're you policing feedback, right? You're actually you're scheduling feedback. Well, if you want to give me feedback, I come here between 2 and 4 on a Sunday. Otherwise, I'm not open to feedback any other day, right? That just does not translate. And so there's so many things. Or my last point, you'll put your story over strategy. So this is what I came from. This is what I believe. This is what I know. This is what I feel. This is what I understand. Not what is the best strategy, or this is what they did in the past, which is a story, as opposed to moving forward. What is the strategy, right? Or do you guys know that, like, if you say you believe in equality and freedom, that's religious? You know, that's not really a thing. That's a religious belief. Not saying it can be in certain cases, but across the board, equality and freedom, I challenge you to show me where that's ever existed on a large scale. It's a religious belief, right? So if you put that religious belief in front of strategy, comes down to which one is it about you or is it about the business? And so, and to me, I realize that as the business grow, I receive the reward to allow me to have the impact I wish to have. But if I get my way, I don't grow the business, which means I live under the limitations of me.
I'm not good enough. The feeling of I'm not good enough. Interesting. That's an interesting feeling. I mean, why are you guys entrepreneurs? Why are we entrepreneurs? Does entrepreneurship only exist for the ones who think they're good enough? That's just a question. Like, you going for it based on other reasons outside of your current value, right? Like, I'm going after this. I believe, because some people believing they can learn along the way. Like, I think I can make it. I don't know how, but I'm going after it. Self-value is an interesting, cold thing. It's a interesting, cold thing because it's so complex. To me, here's one of them. Is there anybody out there who, if they do something for themselves, it's about a 6 or 6.5, but if they do something for somebody else, they can give it a 9 or a 10. Well, why is that? So you can have a cold ass formula internally to say, well, if I build my business for others and I'm doing it for the greater good, I can provide way more value than if I did it on a me thing. So this shit is so complex. That's why values-based entrepreneurship has its place.
Well, okay, I think we're overextending value. Nothing's absolute in these business theory. I think that's why it's good to have these conversations. You can have high value and still be uncomfortable tying your shoe.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not talking about extreme value. We're talking about a sense of you believe in self. But, okay, have you ever been in a situation? I'm sure you have, but I just, and those of you can identify with this if you guys want to pour into this, where you didn't know how to do it, but you believe you're going to figure it out. That's a value statement, right? If I don't value myself, I just be like, I can't do that. I'm out, right? Mm-hmm. Those people don't really evolve in this world. Yeah, can you get a hype cycle, win a lottery, or or join a wave and get to a certain point? But at some point, you're going to corrupt that process. Self-value is nobody. If you put me on a basketball court right now with Michael Jordan, I have no value. If Michael Jordan was young, I would have no value of myself. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even go to the court. I would somehow go to the bathroom, and I'm at home next time you call me, right? Mm-hmm. But there's certain things when I'm walking in my strength. And when we play in this game, you have to have a strength you're walking in, right? There's not a player who excels at the height of the game and says, I don't have no strength here. Now, you may have degrees of doubt, but what I'm suggesting with a lot of our people is it's way deeper. It's way deeper. It's almost like you were so convinced there was no way out because you really bought into this idea that white people were superior to you that sometimes you use these external things, whether it's clothes, cars, being an entrepreneur, whatever it is, to give yourself value. But without those things, you don't really have any value, right? And you kind of over leverage those things to say you're somebody, not saying you're not doing the internal work to see value in yourself. right? It's like, as opposed to you gotta be valuable at everything or you feel valuable. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm talking about there's a sense of, if I walked up to you and say, you're not a valuable human being, you might be like, you'll say, I don't know who you're talking to. Like maybe in what you do, I'm not, but I'm valuable, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to, I'm not valuable. And when I sit amongst my people, we question the opportunity for value. We question it. I mean, I've talked to some people sometimes, man, and it's the weirdest shit. Like I can talk to them and they say to me, nah, that's just what it is. And I'm looking at them like, almost like if I keep talking, they're going to be in fight mode. And I have to literally just bow down and be like, all right, bro, that's what it is for you. As opposed to like having that deeper dialogue where like I said, if I told you, hey man, come over here and do my taxes, I get you saying I'm not valuable. I totally get you saying I'm not valuable either. But if I said, yo, Court, you can't run no fucking business, man. You're a weak ass black dude. You look at me like, something wrong with you, dude? Because I know you couldn't possibly be talking to me. You don't even want to get mad because you're thinking that dude must be on medication and he must be delirious, think I'm somebody else or something. And he's in the middle of a war and he thinks he just sees somebody with a head wrap on. I don't know what the fuck's going on, right? Like that's how extreme a lot of our people are suffering from this story that's being ran through society. You're a minority, you're a second class citizen, you came from slavery. You remember Black Wall Street? Yep, you lost that shit too. You remember when Martin Luther King, they killed that motherfucker. You remember Malcolm X? Yep, pop, pop, pop. And then in the end you're thinking, well, fuck, why bother?
Yeah, that sounds like value ceilings. Like literally ocean and air, like you just doesn't exist outside of here. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's fairyland. Which, I feel that.
So I want to pivot then a little bit from that question to, we got a question about pricing and how do you set your pricing when you are a new business? Josh, am I good at talking? More? Okay. Okay, there we go. So when you are a new business, what are you basing your pricing on? Because ideally, let's assume you are either setting it according to what is already there, so you're looking at comps in your industry already, or you're basing it off of something else. How do you set pricing as a new business?
Good question. It depends. Research is a good one first. What is the market charging as a whole? High, medium, low. You got to know where you are, or at least where you want to be. Like, where do I want to fit in this market? So if you're a cog, say if you're a product-based business and not a service-based business, that's what I can speak from, is product-based businesses. And that is, where are you entering into the market? So whatever product that you have, where are you, or where do you see yourself at first? None of that's set in stone, because all of that can change depending on how the market shows up to you. So if you're showing up as a Payless version or a Walmart version of your product, or if you're showing up as a Target or as a Macy's or as a Bloomingdale's, you got to know where you're entering and seeing how your product compares. Now, you still don't have a crowd yet, so you don't know where you are. So that's why I always suggest starting small with one product. Like, this is my product. This is what I'm offering. What do you guys think? And you can adjust your prices from there. You don't have to. A lot of times I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they overinflate their value at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
So what they'll do is they'll price themselves the hell on out of everything because they got hyped up by whoever, and their products sit. Like, the crowd will tell you to raise your prices. The crowd will tell you. they'll tell you in a couple ways. They'll tell you either verbally to say, man, I would have paid this much for this.
Yep.
And you're like, word? Okay. Or it sells out super fast. If your shit sells out in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, that means that's giving you feedback that you have value and that you have an opportunity to raise your prices. So that would be my suggestion. It's an ebb and flow. It's a constant. You're constantly tweaking, always add, and the more value you add based on customer feedback. Again, it ain't about you. It's what your market tells you are. Customer feedback. And you ebb and flow with customer feedback. You can continue to raise your prices, but it's much better to raise your prices over time than to have to drop your prices because you fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So that would be my suggestion. And remember, human beings, they have short memories. There was a time where you, maybe 4 years ago, you walked into Walmart and saw Champion hoodies. And then 2 years later, Champion hoodies was $200. Mm-hmm. Because the market said raise your prices because of whatever event that happened in terms of value. So the value of Champion went up, and people forgot for a quick second it was just in Walmart, and they was going and willing to buy the super expensive Champion. So it's an ebb and flow.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Kaja.
So I want to unpack this a little bit more. That was actually a question I submitted because I'm having, I don't want to say it's a difficult time, but I'm in like a confusing space because now there's something to sell. Like I've built this thing up enough where now people are reaching out for me to do things for them, to buy ads on the podcast. So now I have to talk money. And I think I said a few classes back, there was one instance where I think I got a little too engaged in a conversation and I threw a number out prematurely. So now, at least I have the experience to say, okay, thank you. Let me, take a look, assess something to kind of put some space in the moment and then go back with the number. And I've even engaged friends, one in particular who is moving in the same space, but he's much far further along than I am. So it was good to be able to talk to somebody to understand the approach in general. What I'm understanding is the market that I'm moving in is fairly new. There really is no price structure. A lot of this shit is actually made up. So then it's like, if you're going to make it up, what are you going to make it up based on? So just quick story. I'm glad this is discussion week because I feel like I could talk a little bit more. Quick story. I had gone, there's a food business that was going to be on the podcast. Scheduling didn't work out. I went to patronize their business. I knew they didn't know that I was the same person they had been emailing with, so I introduced myself. And they said, oh, yeah, well, I'm interested in coming on next season. Great. They mentioned to me that there is an influencer who was coming out to their business the following week to do some promotion for their business. And they mentioned to me what the person was charging them. And inside, I was clutching my pearls because I'm like, you're going to pay the person that money for that? And the business owner was sharing a lot of information with me, and I thought...
How much was it?
It was $700. It was $700 for the person to come down, eat your food for free, and review, whatever it is they're going to say. And the business owner was asking me, well, he seemed to not be completely sure of what he was getting. Well, how does this work? Well, what if the person don't like the food? What if they get hit by a car on the way home and I don't never see the thing online or what? And so I wanted to almost say, well, then why did you agree to spend the money? But it's not my business. But my thought was, for the influencer charging, all you can do is come eat the food and put up whatever you're going to put up. You don't have, however many followers you have, it doesn't matter. The person has just under 300K. You don't have any way to tell this business owner as a value statement, here's what you stand to yield from me doing that. People might see it, they might like it. Your likes aren't on my P&L, right? Business owner, you don't know for the money you're paying. You seem to be unsure in the conversation with me about what you're even getting. So then to me, I'm like, from an ethical standpoint, you're going to take this man's money. Restaurant margins are slim as hell. You're going to take this person's money. You're not really giving them no value statement. You're not giving them a data report to say in the last 60 days, this is the amount of movement, shares, follows, engagement. Y'all just throwing numbers on the table, and they're paying them because the businesses want to get in front of eyes with no idea of what that means for their bottom line.
Okay, I see some of your peers.
So wait. I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna wrap it up.
But
I thought to myself, as I charged much lower prices, if at all. Well, I'm gonna get there in a second. Am I the fool, or is the business owner the fool? But there's a fool here, and it could be me. It could be me. Fast forward. I'm open to the premise that I could be the fool. Fast forward, I sold ads for the podcast because it was the first set of ads. Like, I'm not trying to throw a comma in there with you if I don't have the value history to say this is what you can expect to get as a return on your investment. Because I'm not trying to get your money because you think I'm popular or whatever the case may be. I want to be able to give you a spreadsheet and say, here's a data reporting. Now that's the basis on which I'm asking you for that. That business doubled down. They bought ads. They also bought in for me to come do promotional stuff for them. Okay, I charged them $500 to go do it. I was under so much pressure internally creating that for them because I always heard it growing up. Once you start taking people's money, you owe them. So to me, it's one thing if I come in your business and I do something because that's just what I'm doing. But now that I took your money, it better be flawless because you took their money and now you have to prove your value to the business. So pricing for me, now that money is on the line, I feel under pressure. It's not a bad thing, but I feel under the pressure to deliver. I don't care if you have to stay up all night. If you said you're going to have it on the first, you better have that shit on first. It better be right. No mistakes. Like, to me, now that money is on the line, I feel like it's a different level. But picking prices is like swinging in the dark. And to some degree, Oakland operates like a small business. These people talk in the business loop. So, oh, she charged you this? Oh, well, she charged me that. I don't want to get into that. But if you're business B and you're doing a certain kind of business, yeah, I'm going to charge you something different than I charge the food truck man because y'all are not in the same space. But I just don't know how that could reflect on me. So again, now that pricing is here, I'm confused.
Kaja, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Before you can't be cutting people off.
No, that's it. I'm done. Pricing is confusing for me.
Okay, go ahead. You want to ask a question? Go ahead.
How do you quantify how much they would make by appearing on your podcast?
Can't. The most I can promise you is you will get in front of an audience of people who demographically are aligned with the kind of product you're offering. That's all I could offer you, and I can tell you this is how many listeners, this was the most popular episode, it's women, this age to this age, this income bracket. But after that, just like with any kind of advertising, I can't promise you that they're going to buy your stuff, but I could promise you could get in front of the ear of this number of people. But I'm not going to run your pocket for that because this is new and I don't have enough history on it to be able to stand on the value story yet.
Go ahead, Danielle.
I really love that you're talking about this. I'll say that. I have so many questions. Like 1,000,001 questions. Like, I really don't know where to start. But what I'll say is, why can't you? Why can't you? You listed out so many numbers just now for you to be able to just do quick, simple math. Like, not even complicating it, just making it a 1 + 1 = 2. If I got 30 listeners, then that means you're exposed to 30 people, so I can charge this amount. Or even, like, thinking about So you said you charged $500 and you're making this brilliant, robust spreadsheet with analytics. How long does it take to make that? Analytics take time. Time. So it's like that is a service that you're providing in addition to exposure. So like when you talk about the guy's $700 and you said he's a little shy of like 300K or something like that of followers, that's hella exposure. Even if somebody was to just look at it, not buy nothing, not show up, word of mouth is a thing. You cannot quantify that in a number, but that 300,000 people that are exposed to this now have new information. Branding, advertising doesn't compute an immediate return, but you don't know what the long-term return is on that. $700 is a very little amount of money to pay for that level of exposure. When you said 700, I was like, oh, so he got like 112 followers, and he gonna tell his auntie, uncle, and cousin, and then they gonna show up, and he got him a $50 plate. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just do the small math first. Like, it really sounds like you're making it way bigger than what it is, or like putting personal pressure on yourself. There was like so much personal in that. It's got to be perfect. I got to do this. You don't got to do nothing. You don't. The things that you're adding to this are value. More value added is the more it costs to that person to receive. Analytics is a special and different service that you don't have to provide. They don't have to provide that. They can get quick analytics from seeing their post on that person's Instagram. Okay, so it got 1,000 likes. I got 12 comments. These are all people that I can reach out to. It's a public service, a public platform. Everything else in addition to that is an additional service, an additional value, an additional something to charge. Your analytics is information. You're giving somebody information that they did not have. You can charge whatever you want for that. You can look at how other people charge for analytics, but you listed out, in all of what you said, you listed out many things that people have separate jobs to do. And you can Google all of those and see how much. But it's the pressure that's keeping you away from finding that information. Because you think you got it. We strong Black women, we could do it ourselves. But you don't have to. You can look it up. You can ask somebody. If you remove the pressure, you'll see how much you can provide with this service and how much your platform can do. And then you can test it. That's what all of this has been about. Just throw an idea out there. Okay, I said $500. Let's see how far we can make this stretch. I did 2 hours of analytics. That's $500. Guess we're done. Try stuff. But I still got so many more questions. But I don't want to hold us.
Go ahead, Tom Vic. Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate that. First of all, that's Danielle 7.0. Danielle 1.0 is just like,
Everything Danielle said was absolutely spot on. But I want to ask you a question, and please don't take this the wrong way. And I shouldn't have prefaced it by saying that, because now she's going to take it the wrong way. Do you think you were worth $700? Just yes or no?
I think I am, but I don't think I've been at this long enough that is the public perception. And I'm not doing business with me. I'm doing it with them.
So do you think you were worth $700?
Yes.
Okay, because this goes back to the original question Shabisha brought up. And as you were speaking, all I kept hearing, again, don't take it offense, was, I'm not valuable. Because the moment you started hating on dude for charging $700, hold on, I'm just speaking casually. I'm sorry, I'm just speaking casually.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking casually.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, she feels like she's not worthy enough.
Yeah.
He got 300,000 followers or whatnot. This is a restaurant. All they got to do is sell 40 pieces of product for $17.50, and they make their $700 back. You got 300,000 people. You would hope 40 people gonna spend $40. I mean, $17.50 on some oxtails or a sandwich or whatever. They gonna make their $700 back. So when you were like, you gonna spend this money to get this man $700, right there, it made me think like, oh, well, she don't feel like she's valuable enough. Mm-hmm. If you would have felt, let me restate that. When you feel that you bring just as much value as the next person, because we're always learning. We're not perfect. Sometimes I still feel like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing. Jasadi better, Josh better, Dre better, Eric better, everybody better, Kim better, Jeff better. But I deserve to be here learning. So
Yeah.
I deserve to be here. When you feel that way, you're going to have a different conversation with the business owner, how you think about the next person, and how you even charge for yourself. So, and also, just to reiterate, everything Danielle said, I swear that was so dope. Because I sit there every night and be like, so even if I paid Upwork $25 per hour to do this work, that would have been $1,000, and I'm only charging them $500. So I'm in the red now. Add all that stuff up. Don't go overboard and hit them with the book, but charge for your time and your services. But also believe that you're valuable.
Shakina?
Took my mic now. Shakina's mic.
Yeah.
I was over here stressing, but our classmates handled it. I'm gonna try to condense it to 2 to 3 things. I heard the value the entire time too, and when you were talking,
The
talking,
sound person just adjust up and down.
they asked me to move it closer. When you were talking, it brought me back to like Hope 4 years ago when Nana was talking about stay out of the other man's pocket. I don't give a red cent about what the person to the left and what the person to the right is charging, because I know that I put in 12 years to learn my craft. I know that I literally geek out and study in every free moment, and I got lists and I go to classes and I do all these things, and every moment that I get, I'm studying my business, my industry, and people. I'm expensive for a reason. And if somebody tells me I'm too expensive, I'm just like, cool. That means that you're not ready for me right now. But point me to your friends that are, because I only need a very small percentage of people to be a multimillionaire in Oakland. And that only takes about 200 to 300 clients, and I'm at 76. So I'm not trying to capture the 3 million people in the Bay Area. I just need 200 people to open up their pockets, and I don't care what the next person is charging, because I know that the 12 years that it took me to get all of this up here is the value, because you can Google ChatGPT or hire anybody to ask them anything that I am going to tell you. The difference is going to be the application, when to use it, when to pull it, when to change it. And the same thing for you. Your value, it sounds like, is because you're doing comparisons to the market and to other people. And when you get into comparisons, because you're new, it's natural to not feel sure of yourself. But when you start off in a comparison space, when you're already not feeling good about yourself, you're going to downplay yourself. And so that was like just the big thing of just like so much sounded like there was questioning in your personal value, and maybe it's deep subconscious and it's not at the top level. So I would play with that. The other thing that I was thinking about was just the 3 things about time, attention, and money. You are new, so it's going to take you longer to get to the learning curve, to figure things out, to find out what tools, leverage relationships, etc. But that also means you should not be charging yourself $2 an hour for that learning curve, because you cannot replace your time. And you cannot, if you're growing and building to try to make this sustainable and scalable, you got to have hours in your day, time, and you got to have attention in your day so that you can get to the money. And if you are billing yourself at $2 an hour and it took you 60 hours to do this thing that it took bruh 2 hours to do because he has a system, you're losing, and it's not sustainable. So when you're thinking about pricing, it's not always the same as a professional locksmith can change something in 10 minutes. It might take an amateur 3 hours. I would pay more to the 10-minute person because you just saved me my whole damn day. Versus if I pay you for 3 hours, give yourself the ability to have enough bandwidth and slack to learn that curb, because you're going to price yourself out and be at burnout before you even get the opportunity to run. You ain't even getting to walk because you stuck at crawling because you didn't give yourself the ability to even have slack to do that. So think about not the right now, not the fear, not the unknown. Think about Kaja 10.0, who you want to be when this thing is popping. And what do you need to do reverse engineer wise to be able to say, if Kaja 10.0 is going to have these kind of clients charging this much money and being able to have this access, what does that look like in reverse? How do I need to be positioning myself? How do I need to be thinking? What systems need to be in place? But think about it on the grand scale and think backwards, because you'll never get there if you nickel and diamond yourself now because you don't feel like you have enough time or skin in the game. It's going to pull you forward faster instead of pushing a boulder up the hill.
Let me add a couple of things. Just real. Mine's gonna be real fast. I can make mine. And the reason, okay, I'm not gonna give you the complete answer because I want to create curiosity for you to gain ownership. Because there's ifs, ands, and buts in everything that has been said. First thing. So first thing is first. In order for Kaja to grow, Kaja has to die. Because Kaja is designed for where she's at, not where she wants to go. And trust me when I say this, you got to kill yourself off to rebirth a new version of you. And a lot of stuff your mama told you, daddy told you, the way it used to be, you don't know the conditions they came up in, that their truth is relative to their conditions, not relative to where you're going. It's very important to know that. 2, pricing is extremely subjective. If you want to charge more prices, you got to do more stuff. You got not even talking about do more work. I'm talking about if your packaging feels different, if your story's better. Your story. The key word is story. Story's stronger. If the experience is greater, your prices are higher. If your story is weak, your packaging sucks, your branding sucks, your delivery and customer experience sucks, that's what you're paying for. So pricing is not really meant, also, once going back to what I said earlier, it's not meant for a quick answer. It's a discovery. Last point, I also heard loss aversion. You're scared about making mistakes. You got, look, you know how I developed a lot of my pricing? From bad pricing. I charge somebody and they go, oh man, you about $10,000 cheaper than the guy down the street. You're like, thank you. Now I don't go back to that person and be like, you owe me $10,000. Otherwise, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I'm gonna do it with the same pride and joy that I promised you. But from this point on, I'm gonna say, hey, listen, I just did a last job for you. You love it, cool. I wanted to build a relationship. I use this as kind of I want to build a relationship with you, but this is really where my prices is. So, if you want me to continue, we can have a conversation. I'm probably gonna lose that customer, which is okay, because you're never gonna keep all your customers anyway. The world you're moving in, everything's changing. You're not moving into a space of comfort and familiarity. Everything keeps changing. Your customers keep changing. It's called churn. Things just keeps disappearing. People just keep disappearing. Your first spearmint customers are opportunities for learning. As you learn to adjust your pricing based upon what they want, what they deliver, and what the competition will provide, and how you want to innovate, because your innovation can change your pricing, right? You have to take losses to get there. You can't get there winning along the way. So you got to say, this is where I think I should, this is what I think I deserve. And then through the experience, you go, oh shit, I'm undercharged. Or this is what I think I deserve. And I hear crickets because nobody's fucking with me, right? That there is this dance you have to do with the market, because going back to Corey's point, at one point Champion was $26, and then it went to $200, and then it was on sale this Black Friday for $26 again, right? So like Champion had to make those adjustments, and I promise you, Champion is going to be here next time around. So pricing is a dance. You're not entitled to anything. But what Tone and Danielle was leading to was you're interrupting the process. You're destroying the process with you. You're doing you. You're not doing business.
Let me jump in there. One more thing. One thing is value is also subjective too.
Yes.
So the beauty about value is that you create it in the mind of your customers. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. As long as your customer bites and buys into it, you good, and believes in it, you're good. That's why it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hoodies in this room. All hoodies made by cotton fleece between 8 in 10 ounces. I know the prices. Cheap as fuck, right? $9, $10, $12 for everybody's hoodie a piece here. But how much did you pay for yours? One something. How much you pay for yours, Tone Vic? 80. How much you pay for yours? Huh? 50. How much you pay for yours, Irk? 40. So between 40 and one something for the same damn hoodie. Why? Perceived value. And as long as the person on the other side bites the perceived value and buys into the belief and moves with that belief, you good. Don't matter. It's subjective. So if you make some compression pants and they have pockets on the side and you say, hey, the regular compressions, the regular tights are 30, but the ones with the pockets are 40 because we had to put extra material for the pockets. You can say, well, I don't bring my phone in the gym anyway. So that value does nothing to me. That don't mean the price gonna go down. It still is a perceived value, like they're doing extra stuff for these pants. So you sell that shit. Like value. The beautiful thing about value is you can level up value in one day. You can say, I'm gonna go from shipping this in a regular ass plastic bag to a nice box. Now you just raised your value. You can think of all kind of little things to add value to what you're doing. But don't ever shortchange or, like Shakina say, jump in nobody's pockets, because it's all about, it's a value game between you and the customer. And if they think they winning, meaning as long as your customer thinks that the money they're spending, they're getting more in perceived value than the money they're spending, that's all that matters.
The science of status, right? Like if I can spend $300 for a sweatshirt and I increase my status and give me bragging rights to my peers and say, I'm bigger than you.
That's all that matters.
That's the only thing. I don't really give a shit whether, like, some of us got too many clothes as it is, but some of us are buying clothes at this point for status. So now here you come along talking about, I don't really believe in status. I believe in human rights.
You're gonna be broke.
Ain't nobody's buying your shit.
You're gonna be broke.
Right. You gotta wait for school to buy your shit and give away to the kids for free. Because somebody fucking with you. You shoeless pace. What's that? Payless shoe source in the hood. Nobody want to wear that shit. I remember when I was a kid, I used to have these shoes called bubble gums. You better not come with them cheap ass shoes. You know how long they cap on you for that shit? You can take that shit off, and 2 years later, they still talk about the day you wore them ugly ass shoes. So people buy status, right? So a lot of times, if they spending more money, you make them feel like it's a much more. Also, you buying buy-in. A lot of times, if people don't spend no money, they don't give a shit. But when they have to spend money, they're invested. So there's just different. There's so much psychology around money and charging people prices. Is not meant for a quick answer.
Yeah,
it's not meant for a quick.
That was a dope question, though.
Yeah.
To wrap it up, Kaja, do you feel like you have what you need to take away and go take action on what was shared here, or do you still feel fuzzy? Okay.
That mic right there.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Okay.
Because look, real quick, his company will charge way more than somebody doing the same thing over here. The same shit. I'll do you branding. I'll do you this. I'll do you that. Why do they still go to him? Oh man, I don't even fuck with nobody that ain't spending 50 bands or higher. But it's a guy who's over here doing it. Why? Value, perceived value. A big time company don't even want to play with nobody on that level. I need to find somebody on my level. So as long as you show up to their status with the perceived value that they're looking for, shit, 50 bands.
It's a real important thing to be thinking about what matters to them and not what matters to you.
Exactly.
Like 100%. It's what matters to them. That always trumps what matters to you. Unless they're trying to get you to do something strange. That's different.
For a little bit of change.
That's different. That's different. Don't do no strange stuff.
I'm trying to hide something right now. I got a little couple dollars in my pocket right now.
So I just want to say thank everyone for participating. This is awesome. I'm going to try to move us a little faster. A little bit. Speed us up a little bit. Here's a question that came through. And the question I have for you and for all of us here is, how do you make sure, how do you understand if you're building a job for yourself or if you're building a business? And why do those differences matter?
Anybody want? You guys want to take a shot at this before? Because I want to hear you guys, so we can kind of pour into you guys.
I think that the difference.
First of all, they were debating who's going to speak first. Shakita had no problem. Well, I got a microphone.
Yeah,
Y'all take 1, 2 over. Go ahead, Shakita. Go
They'll
ahead.
figure it out, once they pass the mic.
Oh, that was so funny.
I think that the difference is the strategy behind it. Being a person that built a job for myself and transition, and I'm transitioning as an active verb into actually making Pinpoint a company and not a job position, because it goes back to value. When Pinpoint was my job, everything was personal. Everything went through me, how I felt, how I didn't feel, what I wanted to accomplish. And in transitioning to making this entity its own thing, where it's a separate thing from me, I am taking in feedback and information and data of everything besides what I care and think about. So my staff, my market, the people that I'm connecting with, vendors, but it's all about it. When I'm removing the me from it is when it starts to become a business, essentially.
I struggle with this myself in my business. And so the question I say, is it scalable? Is that what the difference is from it being a job to being a company? Because I feel like, because I'm a chef, and so I feel like a lot of what I do, how do I make that scalable? Because, I can only cook so much, I can only be there so many hours, etc. So, that's what I'm...
Y'all seen that before Yapasua speaks. Hairdressers are known for that. Hairdressers build jobs. They don't build businesses. Now, hairdressers who create products and build shops and fill it with other employees and do all this expansion stuff, they're doing businesses. But a typical hairdresser or barber builds the business around their skills. Go ahead, Yapasua.
First, I'd like to just acknowledge it's very easy to build yourself a job, and you will end up being your own worst boss and your own worst employee. The first thing I would recommend to whoever asked that question, there's a book. Read it. Listen to it. It's called The E-Myth. The E-Myth Revisited, to be exact. One of the best books I ever read. It broke me out of that self-employment crap. I was my own worst boss. Ooh, man, I used to work myself to death. And I would pay myself nothing. But I would keep showing up to work. And then when I didn't do a good job, I couldn't fire myself. It was like the stupidest shit in the world. So to add on to what everybody else said, the thing that I think about now is what am I doing this for? What is the mission here? Am I serving this bigger purpose than me, or am I collecting a check to pay some bills? Is it growing? And are you starting to delegate? Are you delegating the work to other people? Because that's the only way you're going to begin to scale. And if you're not doing that, then you just set yourself up for a job. Good luck. I hope you quit one day.
Yakpasu, what's the difference between delegating and outsourcing in a situation like that?
I don't see a difference between delegating and outsourcing. I outsource, and I figure these are tasks that I could do, but the amount of time that it would take me to do it, my time is more valuable in delivering on strategy and putting that thought into building the business. So yeah, I can open up Photoshop and make some graphics. I can get on the Final Cut Pro and edit my ass off, but I'm not going to, because then all these other things that need to be addressed won't get done. I can't outsource the leadership of my business. I can't do that.
Did you hear how he said there's something? This shows you the ownership. So a lot of times when people speak, hopefully you guys can hear this in podcasts. when that question is posed, you have to hear the things they're saying in the context. And what he showed in his context was he values strategy over work. I don't know if you heard that. It was so cool how he just kind of threw it in there just so matter of factly, right? That lets me know he's really doing the work. Like if I'm analyzing somebody on the streets and they're like, "Oh, I'm doing big things," right? Like, "You know, I'm doing all kind of big shit over here." Okay, I will listen to that conversation, and just in Yapasua's explanation, he made a major shift in his thinking, because he said, if the work starts to steal from my strategy, I'm a prisoner of the work. That's what he really said. He implied, but he said it so quick and so smooth. Oh, that's another part of the answer, which is the way you know that that you're just building a job is you over leverage the actual work. Matter of fact, you don't even. So, I've been working on learning scaling for years, right? Because I'm scaling my company, so I had to learn. Scaling is so different than doing the job every day.
Man,
It's a night and day. Can I give you an example? A cold-blooded, very uncomfortable scenario of scaling to show you how much of a contrast there is. Say you're Border Patrol, Haiti or Mexico. I don't want to make it feel like it's racial. I don't give a shit about race like that. But let's say a woman shows up and she has her baby, and you're Border Control, and you're just you out there. It's rainy. It's a rainy night. Lady shows up. She has a baby. And she's shaking, and she's like, "Can you let me in?" Your heart at the moment says, "Yeah, she's cold. It's raining. Let her through the border." But if you think about scaling, you have to say, "I'm not sure if I can." You say, "Why?" She may come through that border and be the most amazing woman you ever met. But because she didn't have economic access, especially you got to think about it at a larger scale, not just her. So don't be like, what if, like, don't play that silly game. Just use this as an example of like multiply her time thousands. What happens is when she comes to that door, let's say she goes to work and she has a basic labor type job, right? Her child watches mama go to school, work every day, while they're kind of living in poverty, right? What we would identify as poverty today. Does her kids follow the same path? Or does her kids say, "Man, fuck this shit, I'm doing something else"? Right? So if you don't have a system strong enough to orientate a group of people come through the border, then once they come through, the first generation might be cool. But as that idea scales and their kids are not having access to good education, resources, the cultural differences, you say, "What do you mean by cultural differences?" Go live in a rich neighborhood right now and then have all your ghetto family members move in and watch how the neighborhood changes, right? So scaling is this thing where when you're faced with a decision at that moment, you have to be able to pull back and see it from a macro perspective and realize, if this expands, this idea sounds good up front, but once it expands, it's trash, right? And you cannot even begin that process if you're in this self-employment rhythm.
all my Antioch partners who bought houses in Antioch feeling that pain right now.
Yeah.
In the 90s, they moved to Antioch, bought nice houses, and now they complaining about how ghetto it is out there. So yes, scaling, man. And let's also talk real application, which means anybody who goes into business for themselves or wants to build a business, they're going to go into an area where they feel they excel at, or that they can offer some difference or value to the marketplace. So typically it's because you're hella good at something. You're a great photographer. You're a really good graphic designer. You're a really good salesperson. You're a really good apparel designer or a really good trainer, whatever that is. So when you start your business, it is you. It is you. So what's the difference? It's exactly what she said. You're always starting it with scalability in mind. It's not like you just this big boss where you're like, I'm gonna start a business. You go there, start it, start working. No, you doing it. But if you have scalability in mind, you're always building out processes because you're building it out for the moment you can peel back. That's the difference. So the person who's still at the little corner coffee shop who's been there for 40 years and he has to be there every day is no different than the person who started Starbucks at the very beginning. the two were in the same space. One had scalability in mind when they started, and the other one didn't. They had the belief that I got to do it. If it don't got to get done right, I got to do it. Or it ain't gonna get done right. If anybody wants to do it right, got to do it themselves. All them bullshit axioms that we heard growing up is what locks people in to that employee shit. And then when your business grows or you hit a hype cycle, and now you crazy stressed because you can't double yourself.
Can I add to that?
Please.
Systems. I remember Court was telling me one time, because I'm still like what you say, I'm still trying to make SV not just a job. I really want it to be a business. And I remember me and Court and I were talking one time, and remember, Court, you were like, I was stressed out. And you was like, Tone, you ain't got no systems. I was like, yeah, no. And I kept talking, and you was like, see, you ain't got no systems. And I think that's also what separates your business from just being a job, because when you have correct systems in place, that person can walk away and anybody else in this room can come do that, what needs to be done. But if you don't have systems in place, you're always going to be the one. There was a time, and even sometimes, where I'm always the one doing something. I'm always the one doing it because I didn't have the correct system, to where if I walk away, Kaja can come in, pick up my manual and be like, oh, so this is the intake questions for a new client. Here's our discovery call. Here's how we edit, blah, 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 whatever. So I just wanted to add that I think also having the proper systems can assist with separating your business from being a job.
So here,
You want to jump on there? Okay, go ahead.
I think that systems can be a trap, especially when you're young, without experience. And I say that because I am a super type A oriented person. I have systems for every fucking thing in my life. And if you're not focusing on scalability in the beginning, you will make a whole bunch of rigid systems that are fallible and that will not work. I have a manual, color-coded, Rubik's Cubed, motherfucking index code for every square inch of my building is photographed. There is a step-by-step pictures, videos, all of the things. And I have 9 people that work for me. None of them read it. And I thought that because I answered every fucking question, I approached it every kind of way, I had every kind of thoughtful conversation. I think that systems can be a trap if you don't have strategy behind them, because we tend to think about when we create our systems in a perfect world, X, Y, and Z will happen, but we're not planning for the imperfect world that we live in. And so I think that the most important thing when you're thinking about attempting to build a system, because your system also has to be very flexible, because we often plan too much in rigidity, is that what does this look like at 1, 5, 10, 100? And depending upon if it's a B, C, or D level person that's going to carry it out, I think that we try to build systems for perfect motherfuckers, and there's no such thing, and that's why systems often backfire on us.
First of all, I love that dialogue because they both had a right angle, but that shows the complexity of running a business is not recipes. And I think that was so dope about both of their answers, because they both showed you how the recipe can go right and how it can go wrong, but they both had relevant info. Like if I had heard that Tone gave that advice or that Shakina gave that advice, neither would I feel, what they say that for? I would say, that was very insightful. But that's why this dialogue is necessary, because a lot of stuff is relative, right? It's like, yeah, the hook is a famous punch that or uppercut is known to knock somebody out, unless this person's a master of ducking uppercuts. Then you kind of in a different kind of fight, right? And so how do you move in that space and know how to adjust based upon competition, different opponents, different challenges, different stages of the game? So even some of these questions that people are asking, I think goes back to what Court said. There's 2 things. You gotta love the will to practice more than the will of success, because some of the stuff is revealed in the practice. You just unfortunately, like, building a business requires you to think so different than the way you think to survive day to day. A lot of your attitudes and things that upset you, frustrate you, make you happy, doesn't apply to business. Does not apply to building a business. But when you're running your own thing or you're building a job, you can tell when somebody's building a job for themselves because they're in their business. You feel all their attitude. You may come there one morning and shit, sandwiches look fresh. Next day you show, I didn't have no sandwich because last week this other shit happened. I was just feeling some kind of way. What you feeling? What the fuck you mean? I'm just feeling some kind of way, right? So there's just so many different variations of like there's to get from building a job to building a business. You got to embrace and another thing they highlighted, so many different mental models they displayed. They were showing you so many different disciplines that they learned in their thought that allows them to have access to these new options. Do not believe because you work so hard, the universe or your religion is going to reward you. You got to know that the path is here. You just don't see it yet.
And so then what I'm hearing from that is you have to stay in rich dialogue with people who can help you unpack things versus going to the place of finding the checklist. Is that a fair way to say that?
I say it goes back to the way versus your way.
Oh, shit. I like that.
No matter what we do, no matter what we're doing, anything that we decide to do, we have to know that there's the way and there's our way. And our way is just an intro to finding the way. So if that means when you build out your business or you're building out your recipe or you're designing something or you're trying to merge with the likes or the intent of the customer or your intended audience. So even if it's building out systems, it's what's in our brain may not translate to the end. So it always has to be malleable and adaptable to where that's a 1.0 under everything. So this is my 1.0. How did it land? Didn't. 1.2. Try that. 1.4. And you may finally get it at 7.0. But that's what the way all of this shit is. We're looking for the way. And how you find the way is by going the wrong way a lot of times.
Yeah.
Fuck, that didn't work. Ooh, I got electrocuted. Oh shit, I got bit. Oh, that hurt. Oh, that's not. Oh, there it is. I was right there this whole time. That's how a lot of times this game works.
So I want to use a real example because many businesses, especially in this community, especially in the Bay Area, they are very small, meaning they are under $100,000. They are more than that. They are mostly under $50,000, right? So they're at the idea stage.
Damn.
They're at the idea stage,
We should
right?
pray. We should have a moment of silence. That's painful. No, it's good. It's a good space to be in because I love the struggle because struggle makes you an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
But you also got to have empathy for that person.
Yeah. So, the majority of businesses that I see, they are projecting to be about 70K, right? So and the way that I would quantify that is to say, you have a concept that you are testing when you're at that revenue. That is the way that I would frame that up. But the question then, though, is how do you get from proof of concept phase to being able to answer the question of is there a there here? So I'm thinking about what you just shared, right, about how there is your way and their way. But when you're at this stage, there's not much other than an idea that I'm still trying to kind of water and see what happens. And so what do you do from there? How do you apply how do I do that from here?
Check this out. It goes back to Kaja's conversation. Most of the time, the way to scale is out there, but we're so afraid of making mistakes. We're so afraid of doing the wrong thing. We want to be perfect. So you got a little bit of something. You got a little bit of something. So if I want to scale out and double my income, I got to go out into the unknown, and it's scary out there. And now I got this, and I don't want to mess it up. And now people are watching me. I got eyes on me. You get so caught up in caring what people think that you're afraid to take the risk that got you there in the first place. Like no disrespect, but like fuck that 50K. Like this is the start. This 50K is just my intro into this yellow brick road. And have you ever watched those games where it's like you start with $100 and the top of the pyramid is $1 million, and you get the answer right at 100, and he's like, "Do you want to continue?" He's like, "Of course I want to continue. It's $100. And he keeps going to 200. Then when he gets to like 50,000, dude is like, "Do you want to continue?" He's like, "Well, let me think about it, because 50,000 is a lot of money." Well, it's $1 million up there. You walked in, you didn't have shit. Like in entrepreneurship is even better than that game, because that's your foundation now. You know, like next year I can do 50,000 again. I know that. So what things can I do? Like what math can I play to expand out what that number is? And there's lots of different ways if you think in that. You can even add $2 to every item you sold that next year, and you just made more money. Should be that simple. You can add $5 to your pricing and be like, "Hey y'all, this is the stuff that's coming out." You may lose a few customers, but overall you just went up your income 25%. There's so many different ways. So, but it's just not being scary.
So I guess I need a little more clarity on your question as well. Like, are you saying if you're starting a business and you're starting an idea, proof of concept, right? Minimum viable product. Mm-hmm. And you're saying, how do you know when you caught momentum, or what do you do after you achieved the momentum?
How do you know when you've caught momentum? Is 50K, like what does that mean in the scheme of things? And what are you thinking about next when you're that early in your journey?
I love these questions because they're not simple.
Mm-hmm.
They're not simple because there's
thought about them.
Yeah, they're not simple, and they're not a simple. Like I like this idea of having these kind of conversations, because giving a simple answer is similar to what Tone, Vic, and Shakina just did. Like there's but then but and then this variable. I will say these couple things that can kind of. So first of all, I think speaking to what Cord just said, in the early stages you got to put your head down. Pause for those who try to go there. But you got to be able to put yourself in a situation where you stop paying attention to the competition for a little while. 2, if you don't feel like you're good enough, you won't be able to handle the process that your business is not good enough, because your business isn't a lot of times. It doesn't mean you're not good enough,
Amen.
but your business isn't good enough.
Amen.
So a lot of times you're not making the money because you haven't just built it up to the point where it's fun. It's like fishing. You haven't made that connection yet. You're trying to gain inertia, right? Or there's motion happening because there's a pull from the customer demand, and now you feel that inertia, right? But if you don't feel that inertia, you also got to be careful with the press secretary, which is falsifying the inertia. I've seen people make 50,000 and will turn to their friend and say, "Yeah, this year I did $500,000. You look at them like, and in their brain they really believe that shit, because that's how they're trying to heal themselves to make stuff. Or they'll tell you what their gross is and never share their net. Right? Like they know, I made $2 million sales worth of sales. What's your profit off of that though? $250,000? That's it? Like you going with this? So there's so many variables in there that offer distortion. Third thing is that if you're not taking feedback to adjust, because once again, you're fishing. Or you're surfing, you're just trying to catch that wave. You'll know when you caught that wave. Like literally your phone is ringing. Literally people are like, for example, you might say, "I only have one left," and people are like, "Yo, I'll give you extra 20 for that right now." Right? You will feel that momentum, right? And in the beginning, you're trying to gain that momentum. But it's really about, my last point was, can you handle the feedback? Customers are often telling you whether your product sucks or not. They might not tell you even directly. They just may say something like, "Oh yeah, I forgot you even sold that, bro." Which means You're not that serious to me. Right? Or they might say, oh, yeah, my company wanted to hire somebody, but you just wasn't ready yet. They'll say these little subtle things that improve your shit. Or you'll talk to other entrepreneurs and you'll start talking about your company and they're kind of drift like, no, the Warriors are great. They're really good. They're really good. Because then, like, you don't have business ownership or what I say, industry ownership. So even when you're talking about it, you're looking at business as an opportunity to gain a lick, not actually grow a business, right? And so other entrepreneurs and other people who are serious about that industry can tell. They can listen to you and be like, you've seen guys who like, they want to start a certain kind of company. I want to start a restaurant. They ain't a chef. They barely know about cooking. They kind of want to do it because they saw their friend do it and come up. And you can kind of tell the difference. So I think it's at the end of the day, you're looking to catch a wave, but in that in-between space, you cannot substitute your personal value for your business value.
I think a lot of what you said makes sense. It also is very subjective, and we just spent a whole hour talking about this is a subjective game. But it is very subjective, and if I'm new and I don't know my industry, I don't know much, and then I ask a question and someone's like, depends. Depends. You got to try some things. What is the value of being able to handle that kind of ambiguity when you step into this game?
Oh, goddamn.
I love that shit.
Okay, you want to start this first or will you do it first?
Go ahead.
Okay. You know,
He in the zone.
there is this thing where as human beings, we like pessimism over optimism. So if somebody comes to you and says, the world's going to hell and the white man's going to destroy you, your brain will be like, da-da-da-da. If somebody's optimistic, what your brain hears them saying is, it's going to be all right. Your brain goes, oh, no, I don't know how to process that shit. Like, I do better when you tell me there's a problem, right? So that means, and here's the thing, but yet the best way to move in business is to be optimistic. You got to believe that you can get somewhere. If you don't believe you'll get somewhere, just go home. Fuck it. It's over already, right? You got to believe you can make it. You got only 3% make it, which there's a lot of distortions in those numbers. You have to be optimistic to move in this game, right? Not saying, and optimism is not a blind, happy, cheerful, oh, I'm Mickey Mouse, I don't give a fuck. No, it's literally saying,
Yeah.
I'm investing and betting on myself. That's pretty much optimism. It doesn't take optimist people still see negative stuff. We still see challenges. We still see obstacles. We still see things that have never been achieved before. So what does that do to our brain? An optimistic person, if you're around them, they can sound like aloof. They can sound almost unstable. They can sound like, because they talk about the future, which is not here. See, a person who's pessimistic can pull on all the bad things that happened in your past. And they sound so intellectual. But the person who's talking about the things that is not here yet, you be like, I don't know what the fuck you saying. You selling me hope or some shit, right? So when you're in business and you're talking to an animal that's optimistic by default, we speak a language that, when I say I'm not sure, we may help you enrich your curiosity, but curiosity is your responsibility. Okay, I've been in business for a long time. I don't know everything he does. I don't know everything you do. I don't know everything Shakina does. I can't, now you're making me God. That's not possible, right? What we're teaching you, like when we teach this class, I'm trying to train your antennas to pick up on, like, when you're trying to find coins with the machine, I'm trying to teach your antennas how to look for the right coins in your business, not tell you what coins to find. But in that space, some of you guys are coming to us for. We must say there's a difference between the builder paradigm and the labor force paradigm,
Yes,
right?
yes.
You guys are still moving like labor force. Okay, ooh, you taught me about leverage. Okay, hold my hand and teach me about leverage. I taught you about leverage. That means go get your fucking book and learn about leverage. Hey, JetGPT, what is leverage? Hey guys, if you just tune your ears and listen for leverage, also you start hearing it like how you never saw that Honda before until you bought it, and now you see it everywhere. It's like once you tune your ears, all of a sudden you start seeing leverage being discussed everywhere. You start seeing signs of leverage, and now you start to accumulate your own ownership around leverage. What is most important is your own ownership, because why? When you're in that space, a prize fighter doesn't say, I don't really practice. I take Taibo classes. But what I did do is I studied every move of Floyd Mayweather. So when I get in a fight next week, I'm just going to think about Floyd Mayweather and I'm going to be okay. If that person doesn't develop those skills for themselves, they're fucked. All you're going to have is Taibo. Once you get hit in the mouth, they're going to be like, oh, kick, oh, kick. Okay, you about to get knocked the fuck out. That's not going to work, right? And so just saying, like, ownership, a lot of these answers that we're giving you is we're saying, stop making other people your gods. No other business person is your God. Other people can help you tune your antennas, but you're the God of your own path. And I can't even say that enough. Like if I give you advice tomorrow and you take my advice step by step, you're a fucking fool. My advice is meant for you to listen to it, go, and then develop ownership to navigate your path. Because there's something in your path we can't see in our conversation.
Nana has taught this all year and a lot of years, and that's something called optionality thinking. You guys know optionality? Remember optionality thinking? It's one of the most powerful tools as an entrepreneur. Here's why. Answer that question. And that is, the worst thing an entrepreneur can have is only two options.
Ugh.
You want to see me get fucking almost lose it? Give me just two options. The more powerful an entrepreneur is, the more options. So when you have polarized thinking, all or nothing, this or that, good and bad, is it this or that? And then we say, we don't know. And you're like, oh shit, you got to give me something. That's because we're not feeding into the mental disorder, the cognitive distortion of all or nothing thinking, polarized thinking, because entrepreneurs need several options. So that goes back to your question originally about working on your business or building a business or being an employee of a business. If you have all or nothing thinking, you will be an employee of your own business for the rest of your life. When you start a business with optionality thinking, it's embedded in you to set this thing up to give you multiple options. So
Leverage.
That's what leverage is. So you got to practice that. You got to practice optionality thinking to where it's never this or that. And you always sound like a weasel, like you're always trying to get out of everything, because entrepreneurs, that's how we think. No, it's this, it's that, it's this. I could do nothing.
Yeah.
I could do fucking nothing. That's a strategy too. Like I can crawl around, I can have somebody else do it. Like, and if you move in that space, then to me, those are one of the telltale signs of entrepreneurs, is when you listen to their conversation and you hear just one thing or the other, polarization, damn, you ain't really been through some shit. You ain't really had the gun to your head and like, you got to make this happen. And the two options that you saw don't even exist for you. And you sitting there scratching your head thinking, this is what I could do. And over time, you build that to 4 to 5 in the roughest of situations.
Here's kind of ties in some of the conversations we had earlier. Going back to how do you know you're an entrepreneur? You don't do entrepreneurship. You got to become an entrepreneur. You have to think. You have to learn to think different. You just can't. You can't go from. Look, we talked about kind versus wicked thinking, kind versus wicked learning, right? It's a different way of thinking. This is why a lot of people who leave corporate America and try to become entrepreneurs, they often fail because they think that form of thinking just transfers over. Right? That's why we had the whole series of dog versus the wolf, right? The whole story, for those who didn't know about the dog versus the wolf, was a famous story where there's this wolf walks up to a dog and he's like, "Man, this is your backyard?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "That's your food?" He said, "Yeah." "That's your house?" He said, "Yeah." And he goes, and he sees a chain around his neck and he just takes off running. I mean, they live in such different environments and they have different wills and desires to move in this. They see themselves and place themselves in the world in a different way. They take ownership of curiosity, what's out there, what's happening. They don't just, you know how we walk around, we just label stuff and it just is what it is? Entrepreneurs, we kind of say, well, how did it get here? How did it start? Where did it come from? How could I create one? Well, and after a while, everything becomes just like Play-Doh. You can just change things as you feel, as you see, right? But you think about the world different. So I think a lot of people who are coming to this entrepreneur class, they're trying to do entrepreneurship. So teach me the rules, teach me the process, teach me steps, teach me, like, if somebody swing at me, don't do this, I'll do that, I'll do this, I'll do a duck. You're like, fuck, I don't know how hard he hits. Shit, if he hits hard enough, run. right. But like entrepreneurship, it's about when you become one. Going back to Cord point and the point I was trying to make earlier, you learn how to show up to the problems different. You learn trying to show up to the success differently. You know how to show up to people different. And entrepreneur, some of you guys when you guys were in school or you first had your job, business. I'm doing business, right? The reason some of you guys can't do business because you guys learned a very narrow idea of what is business. Business is psychology. It's philosophy. It's these deeper hidden rules that no one even knows even fucking exist. It's math. It's science. It's so many different principles being mixed like this, and it's constantly growing and evolving based upon your competition and your changes and your challenges. So if you're not an entrepreneur by nature, you won't even know how to shift with those changes because you don't sense it because that's not who you are. But if you're just doing entrepreneurship, you might get a quick run and cheese some money, but this is what happens, and I'm sure Cord has seen this 1,000 times. If they get too big, it overwhelms them because that's not who they made for. But when you are an entrepreneur, I don't know what too big means because you're already adjusting and twisting and you're already anticipating that that's a possibility. Like a great entrepreneur, when you're at the peak of the game, if things go good, you win. If things go bad, you still win. That's a cold-blooded entrepreneur, right? But those of you who are working, you guys are depending on that the track stays clear. That's just not going to translate.
So then, can you guys talk about then, because I hear you saying business, that much of what we learned about business was an extremely narrow definition of it, and that it's philosophy, it's so many different disciplines. And, I think in some ways that can make people apprehensive about staying in this space because they didn't get into it knowing that it was going to take all of that. And then every Wednesday, y'all are like, the Dead Sea Scrolls are opening. Let's talk about all of the things. And we're going to do it for 3 hours, right? And then we're going to be back next week, and I can't wait to tell y'all what I got to talk about next week. And we all feel like, you can't be serious. There's more to talk about? No. I call time. So I want to ask a really real question, right? I can go on Amazon, I can go on Goodreads, I can go on my Apple, my Spotify, my whatever, and there are so many books, podcasts, there's all this content that says, here's the book, here's all you need, you can do it in 2 years.
Yeah.
Do what in 2 years?
You can launch your thing. You can be on the map and like solid. Boom, you can get there. And in here we laugh, right? But in here we laugh. Listen. No. I think that's true. And
I had to make up the game, baby.
there are bestsellers. There are what appear to be credible sources that tell me I can be an I can do this. I don't have to finish school. I don't have to read as much. I don't need all of these different sorts of thinking ways that you're telling me I need to have, because there are all these examples of all these people that are saying that they did it. And they did it this way, and there appears to be proof. And while everyone in here is too polite or too embarrassed to say that they actually agree with some of that, there are varying degrees that people buy into that. Let's just be like super honest. And so rather than pretend like that's not to some degree affecting how we're thinking, I want to ask the question of how you start to give yourself some space from that so that you can put yourself in a position to make better decisions.
Before court goes, let's let the audience jump into this. Go ahead. Yeah, Tone.
And Nana, help me with this because I'm going to mess it up. There's a phrase that Nana says, and we used to say it back in the Mother's Cookies spot.
Shut
when
the
you
fuck
stop
up.
living in fucking a fantasy world and start living in reality. What was the phrase, Nana?
In order to
in order,
Make believe.
and
Yeah.
say it again. In order to practice
master
reality,
reality.
you got to stop making make believe.
yeah, practice make believe. Yeah.
That's one of the biggest keys right there. Yeah, there's those books. Court talk about his woo-woo days. I remember motivational reading that shit. Once you realize what those books say, you want to be a millionaire? Pay me $1 million. I'm gonna show you how to be a millionaire. That's how once you stop living in those fantasy worlds, thinking that I could become a boxer overnight by reading this book, and really fucking live in the reality of like to be a real motherfucking boxer or a business person that's gonna take hitting the streets, getting beat up, getting slapped, constantly reading, constantly learning. There is no there. Like, I mean, some of us are fucking prime examples of this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've been doing this since Mother's Cookies, and we still sitting here asking questions, learning things over and over. I'm a prime example. Once I you said it best. Once I put my head down and was like, fuck this, shit start clicking. And not being afraid to ask questions, not being afraid to be wrong, not being afraid to fuck up, not being afraid to take a step back, not being afraid to bleed, not being afraid to be broke, and not stopping. And I've stopped 1 billion times, but I ain't stopped. So I think, like she say, it's a fucking industry of, I got this book, I got this how to make money in 3 steps. But the truth is, real talk, and I'll end, motherfuckers don't tell you the 3 steps to success take like 52,400 million trillion fucking, and most people don't tell you that. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that. And they don't want to be honest about it. But it's too long of a book title. So if you continue to get duped by stuff like that, then you kind of deserve it.
Irk too. Don't
Hold on.
Ellen back there too.
Oh yeah, go
Ace back there, too.
So
y'all be killing. Y'all be like, well, I got a microphone, so y'all gonna figure it out. Go ahead. I ain't mad, y'all. Go ahead.
I think Kev just said, Tone just said that as well, that it's an industry. And we have to remember that is also a business. Yep. Writing books about business is a business. Like he said, pay me $1 million, I'll show you how to be a millionaire. That's the business, and you're not an entrepreneur learning about entrepreneurship. You're a consumer. You're a customer. You're the person that they're selling to. So you're purchasing that product, or you are the product at that point. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of change your thinking about these books or these ways of learning to understand, like, okay, some of these people are actually trying to help me and teach me or show me the game, and others are trying to take advantage of the fact that I don't know the game. Mm-hmm. And that's the industry. So anybody could write a book or write the steps or chat GPT some answers, put it in a PDF, and you could buy it, right? That's a business. technically, and you can be a consumer of that business and not learn anything, you know? So just kind of keep that in mind, that some of those things are literally what they say, like you're a consumer.
So I kind of wanted to jump on the back of that, and it's like, is that kind of a symptom of being in survival mode when those type of things are appealing to you? Because like when you're in survival mode, you're kind of looking for that get rich quick scheme, like you're playing the lottery and so forth and so on. So it's kind of like a balance with optimism, because you want to stay optimistic. And then if you're building something that wasn't out there before, you know, or that you're not, then it is kind of a fantasy world, you know, because
That's actually fucking dope as fuck that you brought that up. I'm loving this because I love this. This is the diversity of how your brain has to think about this stuff, right? There's a lot of inertia going one way. You're like, well, can we go this way and think about this way? Which, by the way, that was hella fun. That was fire. Yeah, you're right that that there are conditions that set people up to be victimized by this, right? Entrepreneurship is so poorly defined in the public forum that even as class, we find most of our struggles is trying to teach the community that has, what do they say? Here's another principle, here's another law. Inventions are never credited to the person who invented it. It's credited to the person with the best story. So a lot of times these pop books just tell better, funner stories, right? Where the person who invented it, it's like it's just too complete. You're just telling it in a way that it's just not translating, right? And so there's all these different avenues that are attacking people's brain. We also in a world with social media where nobody wants to last. They don't want to sit around more than 10 minutes. They're already like, oh, just give it to me quickly. Just give it to me quickly. As if that's really going to solve the problem, right? I think the other thing too is that we're not doing a good job as a community painting the complexity of the journey. I don't give a shit if the book is the perfect book. You have no idea how many decisions you have to make between here and next week, next month, next year. That book is already ran out a long time ago, right? So if you don't have this way of refreshing your thinking, updating your thinking, accelerating your change, because all of us are changing, but accelerating your change, you can't keep up. And the reason, and why the word speed and pressure has to be applied, it's called competition. Competition says if you don't do this, if Kaja introduces a good idea and competition catches hold that that's a good idea, if she doesn't move on an idea aggressively enough, competition takes it. Right? It's not even personal. It's just, I'm not gonna let you on this gold and I can eat off that gold. So we have to be able to move with this idea that there's this pressure. And how do you even handle pressure if you're thinking like a commoner, right? When you're an entrepreneur, we have a different definition of pressure. Like, I was just a real quick fun story. Then I want to hear I want to hear Irk. I was at the gym the other day and the brother walked up to me, dope conversation. He's like, yo, man, I'm paying $1,600 for child support. I said, yo, shout out to you, bro. Appreciate you. He goes, well, you know, it's kind of rough on me and shit. It's kind of hard and stuff like this. I said, man, let's not have this bitch ass conversation, please. He said, what? I said, bruh, first of all, you assuming there's fairness, and there's no such thing as fairness. See, I want you to see how my entrepreneurship starts to separate me. I said, number two, you should get that woman a hug and send her some flowers, because $1,600 a month is nothing. I said, pay for somebody to watch your child 30 days, 24 hours a day. Pay for somebody to feed, clothe, pay for the utility, the water, the housing, the car that has to be driven. I said, number two, but you don't know what she did. I said, I don't give a fuck what she did. I do not. I say, because what you're not talking about is what you did, which is you lay down with her. And once you lay down with her, that's your child that she's overseeing. I said, that's what you forgot. You're framing it as you against her, forgetting that it's your child. I said, so let me give you some insight. She says, well, he went to the court, and when he went to the court, they made me have to pay $1,600. I said, because you wasn't a man, the white man got between y'all. Don't blame. Once again, man, I'm not fucking with these soft ass excuses from you. I said, let me help you out, bro. I said, if you really want to be the man in the situation, make sure you how to recapture your manhood, because I'm not about to entertain your bitch assness. I said, but if you want to recapture your manhood, find a way to get your life up, so you can show up there with an extra $500 to $1,000 and put it in her hands. And tell her that, yo, no white man can qualify for what I need to do for my own child. And you'll gain your manhood back. I said, number two, if that woman if her car starts to look raggedy, or you read a safety report that says that Honda Civic is not the best car for your child to be in, you replace that motherfucking car because you try to take care of your child. And whatever attitude she had about you before then, you'll gain her respect back. But for you to sit there and blame her, all you do is victimizing yourself, underperforming, and losing your relationship to your child. See how I think different? No, I understand that. It's funny. I understand that. Go, daddy. No, okay, let's stop it, computer. So, but the thing is that that's how entrepreneurs think. When shit happens to us, we don't sit there and be like, oh, I'm a victim, and oh my God, and oh, why this happened to me? Our brain goes, where are we not taking ownership? Where are we not driving this situation? And so what I'm saying is that it's such a different way of thinking that we're in, that when you take the typical, and here's the thing, I can't be mad at this brother who was talking to me. I was just being harsh because I'm an asshole sometimes. Because I'm trying to bring manhood back. But wasn't mad at him, and I let him know, I'm really not mad at you, brother, at all. You know why? Because the community you live in would have sanctioned your words, right? Your community would have not put that pressure on you, because the commoners who go to work every day don't hold these same ideas. So you're not going to make that transfer. And mind you, I used to be like him. You go back to 25-year-old me, I'd be like, man, child support crazy. They be trying to kill these brothers out here, right? But then what broke me was the journey told me, oh, you can't survive in this journey. And it's not, okay, and for those of y'all who is into some old social justice, feminine, masculine, soft shit right now, the women who are entrepreneurs, I hung out with a sister right now who was building this wine company. She's just as aggressive as I am, because it's not her. I mean, and we have our masculine and feminine expressions, but she's just as strong and showing up different to the journey, because the journey is dictating her behavior, not her, not me, not my masculinity, not her femininity. So a lot of times when y'all see my rah, it's because I'm in a world where a cat can hit you in the jaw and you can't take it personal. You should not have had your jaw there, because that's the game you playing.
Man, I done forgot. What was the question again?
We were talking about
Oh yeah, the books.
Yeah.
Books. I think I touched on some of it earlier, but excuse me. I was thinking about the love for what this is different when you're learning. Like, you just have to love the art of learning and growth, and we use like the gym as an analogy all the time, and the things that you have to do to put in on a daily routine and a regimen that you have to be a part of. So when you get a quick dose of something, that doesn't really speak to the long term at all about what this is to learn. So you spoke to like updating the systems, and I think the updating your phone might update by itself, and you don't even know. When you wake up in the morning, it's on some other shit, and you're like, what happened to my screen? Everything is different. And then you just adjust to that. But when it's us, we kind of like go, well, what's the quick way to do this, opposed to like, what's the long journey? And a quick story, I think me and Nana was going to the gym maybe 8-9 years ago. We ran into Tone, and he was telling Tone the same shit he was telling me, and like, man, it's a dark tunnel, just keep going. Like, boy, what are you talking about? And it's scary, and there's no flashlights. You see a little bit of light. And we've been in this class for a long time trying to figure out what that means, and we still don't have it perfect, but we keep coming back for the love of the game and just getting better and being better men, trying to be bigger pillars in the community, and how to think and not what to think, and just option out, looking at things differently, and it just helps. But when you get a book, it takes you a long time to memorize anything, let alone a 200-page book. So imagine how many times you would really have to read a book that lied to you in the first place, that told you, hey, this gonna work out for you in 2 years. Just that's all you need to do. And it sounds like a hustle to me, like a dude with a jacket selling shit, and you know what I mean? It's just, so to me, that's the thing, just the love for the game, opposed to the outcome of it.
I'll say I struggle with this. Like 4 years ago when COVID hit, that's kind of around the same time I joined the Hope class. So my foundation is basketball. So I was fresh out of hoop, out of college, and I'm just looking for that arrival point. So I want to thank Court and Nana, because they used to always break stuff down into like hoop analogies. And after a while hanging around court for a minute, I was able to see the world in the same scope. So now, like, when I look at entrepreneurship, I'm like, man, it took me from the age of 4 to 24 to get to the college level. So now I'm like, I'm in a new game, so I got to look at my reps a little different. So just having that scope and having that lens has helped me see the world a little different.
I was going to say,
Well, that everybody was like,
Yeah, no, that's good.
Right?
I'm loving this. Yeah, I'm loving this. And make sure
and Danielle.
going for godmother. That's her class name in class. Back at the office, I'm not calling her godmother. But at the office, tell me in public, what's up, godmother?
Yeah, I don't know. This is Danielle 2.0. I just be having hella shit to say. But I feel like you said something, Shabisha, about like not pretending like this book, this you can do it all in a couple of years kind of thing isn't really a thing, or we have never believed in this thing. And it's like, yeah, I fully believed that. Well before this even existed, before I knew about 510 Media, you go to high school, you go to college, you get a job, you do the thing. And all of those books was like, yeah, you could do something different. You could 2 years, you got it. And I think, one, it's subjective because you can do a lot of things in 2 years. Reality is crazy. You could just hit a chance, a 1,000,001 chance, and that's just you, and you did it. That may be the case for the person who wrote the book, and now they like, okay, well, I got you. 2 years, bet. But like, it's different for everybody. But I'll say, as somebody who truly believed in those books, I think, back to what you were saying, some people need that to get started. The first version of me couldn't hear the first version of Hope. I was in here like, yeah, he just in here talking crazy. We're gonna put these chairs up and listen. But it's hard to hear when you don't have the ears for it. And it's hard to do something when it depends on maybe this or maybe that. And most people who are coming from school, coming from college, coming from a job, yes, give me the answers. Tell me I don't know what I'm doing. They was telling me what to do. I need you to tell me so I can figure out how to move. And another thing that you said, like some people's essentials are on the line. So it's like, I need an answer right now so I can make money tomorrow. So it's like, it depends. It's like, well, now I'm stuck. I'm paralyzed. It depends. I can't lose. It depends. I don't have money to lose. I just need to make something. And it's like a lot of people jump into entrepreneurship from a job and they need something to depend on immediately. And this is not an immediate return game. So I think all of that to say, some people need a starting point, and that book may be the starting point. Anybody who believes that they can learn everything about a subject by reading one book one time has a long way to go. No matter how you flip the coin, they got a lot more work to do. But the way I think about it is like, was the book wrong, or did you just learn a valuable lesson? Did you just come out of this with your first, you just dipped your toe in the water, it was cold. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about it. I'm so sorry it didn't work out. But that 2 years got you to try something that you weren't going to try on It Depends. You know what I mean? And I think that's the one thing, everybody's been saying in here, it's all subjective. It's all up to chance. It's all, you do not, nobody has the answers. The 2-year book, or everybody sitting in this room, I can't give you all the answers in one sit down, in one conversation, in one read of a book, it's all, you have to get out there and test it. But people aren't always naturally born with curiosity to test. I'm not curious. What's the answer? And I quite literally was just having this conversation with Kev yesterday. And he's like, in curiosity space. And I'm like, give me some clarity because I need to know what to do after we get off this phone. And I don't know. And I need to know so I can move fast. But it's not always about moving fast. Like you said, optionality thinking. It's a million ways to do literally anything. So like I've been working on trying to think about things differently in that way so that I can show up to we need to move fast and we need to move slow. So it's not just one or the other. And it's a tough practice, but it may take 2 years to get there. And maybe you read that book in that 2 years' time and you tried some shit and none of it worked. And it's like, well, now that I know it doesn't work, let me try something else. But I think as somebody who's read a lot of them books, my mom done gave me so many books like, girl, you're an artist and you are gonna starve. Like my mom really just was like, this ain't gonna work. Here's a business book. Here's how to open a business in California. You read that and you go do a business. And it was like, none of that stuff was beneficial to me. Like absolutely none. But she believed it. Like she still got that book. She like, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna go start. I'm gonna do my little school. And I'm like, okay. But some people need it to start and you need to fail and you need to fail really, really bad so that you can either decide this isn't for me or I'm gonna do better next time. And then maybe the next time I sit in Hope class, I actually hear what's being said because now I tried something. When somebody comes to you and they haven't tried anything yet, it'd just be the worst conversations to have. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Because it's like, oh, hypothetical this and hypothetical that. And, you know, what if I did this? And what you can do whatever you want. Do something. But don't come to me unless you haven't done something yet. Try something.
Go sell some shit. Remember that one?
Yes.
Do something. But it's like most people want to run first and not crawl. And no baby came out here walking. None of them. And nobody wants to be called a baby either. But when you don't know nothing and you haven't done nothing and you haven't tried nothing and somebody else is sustaining your life, you're a child and you gotta learn to walk and you gotta learn to ride a bike. You gotta fall. You gotta skin your knees. You don't know fire is hot till you try to touch it. And then it's like, well, maybe I won't do that again. So I think the reality is these books help people. There's hella bad advice. I'm never gonna say this is the best thing that's gonna happen to you, but it might change your mind. And I think Hope class was tough for me. It's a lot of like I'm on your head. What you say? Personalize him. And then I go home like, sure was, and did, and will again. And it's just like, I just got that energy in me. That's my spirit. But it took damn near 3 years to get outside of that mentality, to not like fight the information. So I think people need that. And I think it needs to come from somebody else, somebody that you don't know, somebody that you believe is already there, somebody that you cannot compare yourself to in real time. And then when you sit in a room with people who have tested and who have tried and who have the hard information, it becomes a lot easier to hear.
Dope.
Yeah, that's like. Once again, I love the breadth of how we're pouring into it, and as opposed to, and then also hearing one thing I think that she mentioned that's important. A lot of times I'm giving advice in the streets. I tell people, you did right. They did wrong, but I was like, you did right, because that's their lesson. They had to engage. And then there's a macro discussion. It's different than a micro. Macro is, you look at the black community, name a big black corporation that's hiring hella black people right now. Mm-hmm. That's a problem, right? Because America is a corporation and lifestyles are tied to economics. And so when black folks are not economically strong, we're also not politically strong. It's like, yeah, you said something, but what you gonna do, vote? And so that's fucked up. But hey, yo. But the thing is that power matters. Right? It just does. So you can be at the table having conversations. Just to be at the table, you have to have a certain amount of power, because power respects other power, because they understand you can see what we're talking about. Similar to what Danielle said, somebody comes to her and she hasn't engaged a journey. It's hard for her to have space for that, because it's like you haven't done anything, right? And so same thing with power has that rule across the board. And so when you look at black folks across the board, the thing that in the early stages of developing hope was, what's going on? Why are we not? Where's the big black corporations all through, like in all these major black cities where there's large black populations? I think they were saying, like, I think the last time I checked data, and it could have changed since then, but Atlanta was only 5% owned by black people. All those black people in Atlanta, only 5% was owned by black people, the businesses. You're like, what the fuck is going on, right? And so then you look at when you get in the community and work with the people, you start seeing how slavery and Jim Crow did a job on us. And it's not because you experienced slavery and Jim Crow. You experienced love from the system of slavery and Jim Crow. I mean, that grandma and ma was loving you and trying to help you survive. But they were pouring into you limiting beliefs and ideas and principles and models that stops you from getting past a certain point, right? Also, the things we didn't get from poverty-based communities, right? Like that comes with slavery and segregation, like what he taught all year, emotional intelligence. Like, some people never heard about emotional intelligence until they came to this class. They may have heard about it in theory, but to actually dive into it, it's like, what the fuck that's a thing, right? And so you realize as a culture, what I think made me nervous about self-help when it came along was it's different if you're just American trying to get ahead as opposed to a culture that feels hopeless. They almost drink more of the wine. Like, we can all say, wine can be good, it can be bad, but we're becoming winos, right? And because we don't feel like we're good enough, we'll use a language to support our status or improve our arguments, which means that now we're arguing with everybody about why we right and why we're not making any money. You guys gonna go with this, like, so there's a challenge. The macro side of it is kind of frightening, right? Because you can't, to course earlier, there's no perfect system.
So here's the deal too, is we're really good at discernment when it comes to other shit for our survival, right? So if you look online and somebody's selling your favorite pair of classic Jordans that you know are like $1,200 on StockX, and you see it for $69, you have the discernment to say that's fake, that ain't it. And you click the site and it's language you can't understand, and it's like you got to do it through some back end shit. You know, that's discernment. If you go to the flea market, you see fake shit. That's discernment. Like you have discernment in all other areas of life through your life experience and growing up. But when it comes to learning how to be an entrepreneur, all of a sudden we don't have no discernment. And what that means is what they're preying on is your greed. They're preying on the desire for shortcuts. They're preying on our desire to skip steps. Because the fastest way to override somebody's discernment is to play with their greed. So it's not like you don't have the discernment. You can pick the book up and you can look on the back of it, look at the dude's name, Google that dude, and see what he's done and be like, oh, this motherfucker ain't about shit. But we don't. We think maybe there's something in there. Maybe there's one thing in there that's that $1 million idea. And they prey on the greed. So the thing is, like it was mentioned before, it is a business too. And it's gonna be out there. It's gonna be everywhere. So you got two choices. You can use the same discernment when you're building your business and entrepreneurship, like who's done it before and who's done it over a long period of time sustainably with similar values. Oh, this group of people, I don't care if they cuss, if they wear hats, hoodies, fucking my Adidas sweatsuits. I don't give a fuck. I want to learn from them because there has to be, I want to see if there's some continuity there. And then you move on to the next and you add those groups of people that can help become your tribe to help you get there. But then you got to take ownership of yourself. I told y'all hell of them stories. Like before this tribe that I was in, I was solo. So I didn't know. So no disrespect, but any white dude on a cover that said millionaire, I bought the book.
Shut up, Josh. That was a good one, though. That was a good one.
I donated to Josh's family fund. Because you're going to do it. You don't know. Over time, you start realizing, oh, the rhythm of these books, and you're full of shit in the comments. And like, oh, I get it. Now you start becoming more discerning in who you listen to. Let me hold on and do some research before I waste my time reading this book. Toss that shit. Like, same thing with this class. We knew, I never expected this class to be gigantic because of the context and the thickness and the nature of the information that we given. It ain't fun to hear because it ain't fun to teach.
Share too much, bro.
It ain't fun to hear.
I don't like fucking with y'all, but I'm here though.
And not that it's not fun to teach y'all. I'm just saying the information we got to give the real. We got to get the honest. We got to get the truthful. We got to hit you in the mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like my first year, y'all knew this. Like I was a cool Courtney. Yeah. Come on, anything. Come on, let's talk about it. Well, how are you feeling? Let's talk through this. That shit get old. Because I was being a version of them books versus this not going to help you. It's not going to help you, Tone. It's not going to help you, me coddling you. What's going to help you is when you say, man, I need to talk to you, Court. Man, I asked Nana said this. Basically, like, give me the nice version. And I say, I agree with the motherfucker. What he said is right. Now what? Like, you're not going to run to me and get a softer version from me no more. Like, that's exactly what it is, because that's what it's about. And it ain't for everybody. You gonna run for the doors when you hear the real. Have you ever played against an NBA player in a pickup game? No, they calling you all kind of bitches and softs. You weak, get out of here, you garbage. Because they at the high level. They ain't playing with you. They ain't playing with nobody. So you like, that was disrespectful.
Social justice.
Like what? Like you coming in the room wanting to play against sharks and mad because they biting. Like we teaching you how to survive as an entrepreneur, and it starts with reality.
Good, Shakina.
I had to go back and look at notes from 5 years ago, man. Y'all did a class on the pyramid for levels of effectiveness because I couldn't remember what the pyramid was, and it talked about the basis of motivation, inspiration, skill, strategy, data. And when not the last question, but the second to the last question you asked about why would this be valuable for somebody to sit through, my first idea was because of longevity. Because no matter where you're at on day one, it doesn't matter 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years. When I first started Hope class at Mother's Cookies, before it was Hope class, when it was a photography class, I had a completely different idea of myself, the world, and what I wanted to create. And when I opened up my first Pinpoint 10 years ago, I thought I was going to have 10 of them motherfuckers now. Mm-hmm. And now I was like, oh, poor baby, she delusional. But it's okay. She going to be all right. She tough. She know how to take some punches. Okay, she going to be all right.
That's true.
And like just so many options of... The story is never as glamorous or as rose-colored as it's painted to us. In books and stories from people that we love and know and people that we don't know, we are often fed from the day we are born to the day that we die a highlight reel. And I think that the benefit of listening to this tough ass shit is it teaches you how to build up grit, and it teaches you how to build your curiosity, learn how to practice discernment, and learn how to think so that you don't get okey-doked, because you are in a business and in a world where it's people's job to take money and leverage it and make more money through stories, through products, through exposure. Our job is to make money. Hopefully, you're around people that are doing it ethically so that you don't become victimized and abused. But even if you do, that's on you, and that's a learning lesson, and just don't repeat it. Don't just keep repeating it. But to the last question, I think that the reason why it's so effective and why there's such a huge market for people to want to get the quick shortcuts is because we're in scarcity, and because we need that right now check, because we don't have another option. And so if somebody is promising me the 1 in a million and I'm doped up thinking, oh, I'm gonna be optimistic and I can do that one because I believe in myself, I'm betting it all on me, that's the only option you got, right? So I think that that's where the draw is. And to what Danielle said, I think that there is some value in getting you to start that. That's that bottom tier of that pyramid, the motivation and the inspiration. We all need some spark to ignite our fire. I think that people continue to come back to it from their glass ceilings that they're creating for themselves when they don't know an answer, or they grow past their initial idea and they don't know what the next step is. And then when you got somebody saying, all right, well, you put in all this hard work and loss aversion, you don't want to lose it, let me just show you this shortcut, it's really tempting to take that step and say, well, I know all this, so I can't fall back down to zero. And I think that we need to not be delusional to think that we're higher than that, because everybody can fall into that bubble no matter how high up you are in it. But I can see that the reason why hope is important is so that you don't stay in that delusion for too long, because we all need like patches of escapism, play, whatever. But I think that the importance of hope is that even if you got your 5 friends that are telling you, yeah, you're right, you're doing everything right, I would have said the same thing, woo, woo, woo. But then you got people that are practicing in the fire, in the game, like turning chrysalises and shit and, morphing. You can say, oh, well, they're replicating this pattern and they're replicating this pattern. What side do I want to be on? Am I trying to create what everybody else is doing, or am I trying to create something different? And hope gives you the something different in a wide array of variations to see, from small itty-bitty $50,000 ideas to multi-million-dollar businesses. You can see that there's a strategy difference, a thought difference, a way of thinking and moving and engaging, a curiosity difference. And so I think that the value is that you get the reinforcement over and over again, and with people at different stages. What I think is so dope about this class as it's grown, I'm not the only person that asks questions no more. Like, everybody asks questions. I love that shit, man, because I used to be the only person like, I'm about to ask another question. Is anybody else going to ask a goddamn question? I'm tired of looking stupid up here by myself. I'm like, but I'm going to do it because 5 people asked me the same goddamn question and didn't nobody want to look stupid on camera. So I'm going to ask it for the 5 people that asked me because I don't know either, right? But there's so much power in that. And then you'll have people that'll come up and be like, well, how did you grow so fast? And I'm like, I didn't even grow fast, y'all. I'm still trying to figure it out. But the better question is, why are you not growing? Is because you are too afraid to take the steps to ask the questions to cover those gains. And so I think that that's the beauty of hope, is it's putting you in a space to, it's okay to be a, matter of fact, it's necessity to be a student and to be curious so that you can continue the growth. So even if it's hard, an elephant's not eaten in one bite, in one meal. It's eaten over a lifetime. And so hope is the idea, everything that hope encompasses is about taking it one step at a time and figuring it out and creating a system and a community and creating a space where we can all challenge each other. And there's not a lot of places that are building shit that actually encourage that we've had exposure to. And so I think that that's the importance of hope. And I think that that's the importance of understanding why we do need those little motivational bits, is because we need to know that everything that glitters isn't gold, and you can either get the gold plated thing that's going to turn your neck green, or you can actually learn how to go mine and sift and figure out some shit, and now you know how to make your own goddamn gold. So yeah.
Cool. We're at the point where we can move into the stage where we ask you guys to kind of elaborate on some of the major points that you made throughout the year. So some of those questions came in, or we can do that for the next class.
Let's take
or
one.
we can.
Let's take one, but let's give them the ability to pour into it.
There we go.
And then we can dance with the class. But I think letting the class talk more.
Yeah.
Well, that's the hope I was having, is that we can talk more
Yeah.
and hear their context. So let's start with that, and let's lob it over to
Go into
the
one?
group. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about leverage. Let's talk about leverage across stages. Leverage, this is the first year you've introduced it to us this way?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is cool because it's a really new concept for this space. It's not the first time we've talked about it, but this year went really deep into it. So it's new in terms of how deeply we've engaged it this year. And so the question is this. It's leverage as it pertains to the beginning stages of entrepreneurship. We understand first question is, the writer understands the theory of leverage as it was shared in here. The first question I want to have for everybody is, do we all feel like we understand leverage as far as the way that it was explained to us? Does anybody feel like if you're at is anybody above a 5? 5 is like so-so. Or does everybody feel kind of like below a 5? Like we could use more conversation on leverage? Okay. So there's like a baseline thing we still need to do. Cool, got it. Thank you for that. And our person who spoke on leverage left the room. That's interesting.
We could talk.
But we have Court. And Court is my leverage. Because I got more than one option.
That's right.
Can we talk about leverage? Can you just start kind of basics? Can we start there?
Sure. Let's talk about levers, period. So a lever basically means that on one side, you can take a thing that's super small, super weak. But if you position it correctly, you can lift something gigantic. So if you put a brick on one side of the lever, you can take a human being and press down. If you put something in the middle and a bar, which means a weak thing can accomplish something giant. So leverage happens all the time. It happens everywhere. Everywhere you engage, there's leverage. So as entrepreneurs, you're always looking where the leverage points are. Where are you and where are they? How much leverage do I have in this situation? How much leverage do they have? So the way Nana had presented it to me is like, damn, that's so powerful, because in business you can take if you position yourself correctly, like the illustration I just gave you, you can make gigantic things happen with leverage. And you always have to look at where's the leverage in the situation. How much leverage do I have in this? Let's take it back to a hood example. I had a friend named Chris. Chris was a wild kid, wild boy in them streets, right? I'm a square, third, fourth, fifth grade. Chris had a crush on my sister. So Chris would come over and he put his arm around me like, you my little homie. Anybody mess with you? If somebody mess with you, you come get me. Chris was known in the neighborhood for being one of them dudes. So there's leverage everywhere. People stopped messing with me for some reason in elementary school. I don't know why. Leverage, right? I used the leverage of my sister for him to be my friend without me trying, and then that leverage helped me to slide through the rest of my elementary school because Chris would come pick me up from school sometimes. Like leverage and in business is the same. Who are you leveraging yourself with? Who are you associating next to? Who in negotiations, you're always trying to make sure you have leverage in you almost have a gauge like the Iron Man suit where you're watching your leverage go up and their leverage go up, yours go down in situations. Damn, I fucked up with that customer. I didn't deliver on time. Now I don't have leverage and they have some leverage over me. There's so many leverage that happens in every scenario, all over, in situations everywhere. And once you start seeing things in terms of leverage, it becomes a monitoring.
Is it so position? Like, what's my position of advantage? Would I use?
You want to take over?
Would I describe it that way?
The positioning is a attribute of leverage.
Okay.
So when you went to college, that's leverage.
Yes.
This solving big business problems happen. Some of your largest business problems are going to happen when things are good, not when things are bad. So what are you doing when things are good to give you leverage when things go bad? You see what I'm going with that? But if you just wait for things to go bad, often you don't have leverage and the cost is high. The damage level is high. So when things are good and things are peaceful, things are quiet, you got work to do to establish leverage. So if things go bad, you can either win, okay, that's the highest level, or you will survive. But often you fall because when things were good, you stop investing in leverage. So leverage is something that you're always managing because competition is forcing you to deal with it, changes are forcing you to deal with it. Leverage is not an act of taking from other people to use it to, you can use it to exploit others, right? But often leverage is allowing you to have a dominant position to continue to function as normal.
What if you're
What your
very
definition?
small and you don't necessarily feel like, it's hard for me to ask this question because my brain is answering it. But what if you're small, you're just starting out? How do you play the leverage game?
Go ahead. So you want to answer the question, or you want me to? You got some. Okay, you got.
It's kind of both.
Go ahead. There you go.
Building relationships and maintaining relationships, isn't that a form of leverage? Because if I'm small and let's say someone comes to me who is big time and they really need they need some photography. I'm gonna be like, ooh, I know a dope ass photographer. I'm gonna be like, hey Kev. But so my relationship with one of the dopest photographers would be my leverage for the person who needs, right? So even in the bad time when things are bad, I can go back to my relationships with my community or people that I know and use that as leverage. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna exhaust your brain to show you all the decisions you could make in that space. So, where's Kevin's leverage? What equipment has he purchased when he had extra money, or did he blow it on a car? So did he give up his leverage for the car and not purchase a better camera or better lights or better equipment or better equipment that says I'm worth this much money? Because if he wants to charge $300 an hour and he has equipment that says $75 an hour, he limits his opportunity to create leverage, right? Leverage is also, too, how much does he practice? How much does he practice different scenarios? How much does he develop his creativity? So if the person has a conversation with him, he owns the conversation of creativity, right? These are things you do before the customer shows up that gives you leverage in your simple interaction, right? Leverage is also, too, you got a new product. How many of your family and friends are buying your product? And nobody wants your product. No, like you sell it to your cousin be like, yo, man, I'm going to give you this $100. I'm just going to give this to you. But don't fuck with you again. He just gave you leverage to say, yo, you got some shit to work on, right? So you use your family and friends for the early feedback to figure out how to align your product to the market, right? There's so many different vendor leverage, right? Like you may not have the money to go buy all the stuff up front, right? But like one of the things I used to do before I had money is I would go to the same restaurants, the same vendors all the time, where they knew my name, I knew their name, I knew their family. So if I needed to call on that IOU type favor, right? That was based upon me building a relationship to have leverage, right? Mm-hmm. So leverage is something that you're always thinking about, okay, if these variable scenarios can happen, how do I gain leverage so I can win if this happens over and over again? Not how do I, when something happens, okay, I don't have no leverage. Well, you had to think about that before. It's just something, because even, okay, client calls you and says, say me and Court business partners. And client calls me and goes, Court didn't deliver that document when he promised. And y'all know how your stomach sinks. You go, Now, if you don't understand the leverage game and you don't say, where can I get leverage here? What you do is you can just tuck, sink, apologize, and possibly give up money or lose a customer. Or you can say something like, well, I think the reason I didn't get to you as soon, we did have a conversation last night. We had one more review. So is it okay if we get to you by the end of the day, because we had one review and it might be on me. But I wasn't aware of the timeline. You see what I'm doing right here? Mm-hmm. I'm looking for leverage. Mm-hmm. I'm not going, right? Sometimes I have an argument with a customer and they are argue kings or argue queens. Like, you're not gonna get past this person arguing skill, because that's all they ever do is prove they're right. But you know how you gain leverage over somebody who argues all the time? Questions. They don't like questions. Because guess what? When they argue like that, they don't have enough ownership behind their questions, right? And so a lot of times I walk with a client who's trying to argue with me, I say, that's interesting. I like what you're saying. But let me ask you a question. What I'm trying to do is shake their foundation to regain my leverage. Leverage is happening in every interaction of your life, and you don't even realize it. If you're a father or mother, right? You're working on leverage. You can easily lose leverage your own child. Mm-hmm. Your child could call you her partner. That's my partner. Oh yeah, she's my mom too. But they could do that. And this happening you see it in white families, you see it in some of these new black families, where the parent is not taking a certain position where I'm dad, I'm mom, I don't play that, I'm not your friend, I'm taking this leadership. Some mothers who are single mothers, yes, who are lonely at home, make their child their friend. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. It's not a judgmental thing, it just does. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times they lose that leverage later on in that child's life when it's time to have those kind of conversations, right? So I'm just saying, like, leverage is something that you're thinking about at all times, where at that moment, your heart says you really want to dance with your child and act like Michael Jackson and be partners. But you got to realize that if you're trying to gain leverage, it's a way you have to dance with them. You can't start acting like you Cardi B all of a sudden with your child around, because then you're changing your leverage point. You have to say, okay, when I'm dancing with my child, I might just do a two-step. Yeah, come on. And your child can do all kind of crazy stuff, and you're like, hey, we're not doing that in my house. Mm-hmm. That's leverage. But you don't have leverage, she'll start popping. You're like, well, I can pop my ass harder. Okay, you're losing leverage, right? And so it's just those things you just can't. You got to realize everything you, as a man, as a father, there's certain things I can't. If I'm screaming at my child every time they do something wrong, I'm going to lose leverage. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I got a time when I'm going to speak. So when I do speak, I have much major leverage from my child, mm-hmm, right? So I got to let her do a lot of stupid stuff by herself. Go back to that, your point. That's how she gonna learn. That's how she gonna learn. Mm-hmm. And then go, hey, stop. She's dad spoke. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. That's my leverage. Mm-hmm. But if I was matching my wife, which is like, no, they be going back. Woo, they be going back and forth. Mm-hmm. And I just don't say nothing. Sometimes I let my wife get beat up. Whatever. Right? my daughter's gangster. So but then when I come in, I'm like, daughter, she's right. Bow down. She'd be like, okay, I'm sorry, Dad. Mm-hmm. Right? But I said a lot, mm-hmm, because I gained leverage from my child. That's why I don't have to raise my daughter's never heard me raise my voice at her, because I gained leverage. Or if I didn't gain leverage, I'll come in there, hey, sit your ass down, girl. I don't turn the goddamn game on. Yeah, you don't have no leverage, bro. Mm.
Hey, have you ever been in a relationship and you felt that you lost leverage with your partner? Right? That's leverage. Man, be quiet. or when you talk and they go, psh, that means whatever coming out your mouth, I don't give a fuck no more. You lost leverage. Has a partner ever lost leverage with you?
Yeah.
That's a visceral feeling of how leverage works. Like women call it breaking up in their heart. Like I broke up with him in my heart a long time ago. That means he lost leverage with me a long time ago. And so in business it's the same. In life it's everywhere. The beauty of leverage is once you start playing in that leverage space, then you know where you stand, and when you understand, well, why'd he say that to me? Well, why he disrespecting me now? Or why he doing this? So there's somewhere along the way you lost leverage.
Josh wanted to say something.
I have a question about leverage. Without going into a long story, if you know someone who wants you to produce a video for them, if you know with the way they're directing you that it's going to be an inferior product, and you give them advice on what to look out for and they don't take it, is it leverage to exploit their ignorance and give them what you know that they want that won't work for the market they're trying to reach?
So that's another good question, but that's not. Ooh, damn! I hit that little button on the seat. Ooh, 1 second.
Witches.
There you go.
All right, that's a different. That's that's a different conversation, and it's. We talked about this in our last Monday meeting. I think it was. I think we had this conversation. Your right is not the customer's right. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Your right is not the customer's right. If business is about finding a unique path to gain a competitive advantage, your rational thinking could be the wrong direction. So a lot of times it's building a product in the interest of the customer, but still providing some of your creative edge. So you might say it's wrong. Like there's a restaurant in Chicago where the lady cusses you out as soon as you walk in there. Like she literally cusses you out. What the fuck you want? Mm-hmm. Like that. Mm-hmm. That restaurant is so fucking popular because people go there and just get cussed out because it's just that's the experience. Who would ever advise somebody, look, when you open a restaurant, cuss every motherfucker out, right? But for her and her character and the way she's framed it and her soul food restaurant works, it keeps her restaurant popping, right? So it's one of those things where if I come in there and I'm a consultant, like, in good customer service, cussing at a customer is never permissible. And I'm going to destroy her business. So that's why in the end, that question comes down to that don't ever think right is right for the customer. Right for a customer is moving them in the direction they're trying to go in. Now, if they ask you for some advice, hey, what do you think? Please offer your suggestions, right? If they engage in strategy, please engage in strategy. But if a customer is set on going in certain directions, miracles happen all the time. Who are you? Just think about that. If you go back to Shakita's point, you're constantly learning. Your form of rationality may be relative to the stage you're at. The stage that person's at, that's absolutely ignorant. But you wouldn't know that, so it's more important to help them drive their agenda than drive your agenda. That's critical.
Jordan.
Go ahead.
Can the lines get blurry between building leverage in terms of like relationships and becoming a taker?
So one of the things that I said, I think real quickly in the class, leverage has to be the best way to think about leverage as a win-win strategy. How do you win? How do they win? How do you win? How do they win? Then you're not a taker. It's if you become, going back to Court earlier comments, if greed kicks in and it's all about you, or scarcity kicks in and it's all about you, then leverage can become a tool of taking, right? But by default, everybody has to survive. Survive is not something you apologize for. You have to survive. So you don't survive by being super polite in business. It has its place. But you can be like, oh, you want those customers? Sure, you got here first. Go ahead. No, because that's just not how the market works, right? But if you're in a situation where you're negotiating with somebody, how do you win? How do they win? That means that sometimes if the profit could be $50, you might only make $40 and let them keep 10. right? Because in the end, you're trying to win-win. But if you're trying to go like cutthroat, you're destroying relationships while gaining leverage, which is kind of like working against. It's kind of like you cutting off your nose to smite your face.
Hey, real quick, is this leverage if you do work for a big client, you're just starting out, and you know you're not quite there yet, so you charge enough to where it's value added to the customer, but it's a big client. You get the job done, and now you take that client's logo and you put it on your website to say, here are the customers we serve, and that name draws you new customers. Is that leverage? Yeah. So it's chess with this shit too. Is that sometimes you're playing chess to gain leverage, and sometimes even when you may not make as much here, but you're using that as a leverage value to gain others to draw more.
Add to what he just said too. When you finally take on a big client and you just get in the door, it's not about you getting paid. It's about you learning how to serve those kind of clients. And serving those kind of clients is totally different than serving small businesses. So like, for example, if you're doing business with a lot of black folks when you first start, because we usually start in your own community and expand outwards. That's how all businesses work. You start from your local group and then you expand outward, right? But when you first make that expansion, everything's a lesson. Everything's a lesson. Did y'all watch how China is killing the car game? First of all, it is not because of government subsidies. So when American companies were going to China at first, they were just printing money. It was crazy how much money. The first car company was to go to China was Volkswagen. You know how many cars they sold? The first, I think I'm gonna post this podcast. But the first company, they only sold 1,700 cars in China. This is 2 billion people, 1,700 cars. So, because China was a bicycle place in the early 1980s, right? It was you ride bicycles. You don't car. What the fuck is a car? And government didn't even permit people to have cars unless you were super wealthy. So then, when government finally let outside car sales companies come in, they were doing almost $2 billion a year. They were doing over $2 billion a year in China. They were literally, Plymouth Buick was like, man, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, right? But what happened was China had an agreement. Watch this, black people, listen to me. China said, cool, you come in my community, you can sell your shit, but on one condition. Like I told you about the African American sports and entertainment groups they did. They said, yeah, you come to the community, but you got to hire a portion of our people, and you got to give me partial ownership in certain areas, or buy into ownership, allow our state to have ownership. So what China did was they were growing in technology already. They had strength in battery development and technology already, right? And they learned everything Americans knew from like car safety, how to design vehicles, logistics, and all that stuff, right? As soon as China got to a certain point, they go, let me just show you to the door. Thank you. It's been nice. Bye-bye. Mm-hmm. So they use partnership, and you can grow them up. You won't get these cars. Leverage. Mm-hmm. Cold ass leverage. So now China has German, British, and United States technology, and their their actual relationship with technology through cell phones. They integrate those tools. And China literally says, we don't sell cars, we sell cell phones with wheels. So their technology is like this far above all the rest of the world's technology. There's just totally different experience with the so their EVs are taking off, great. But they use leverage of, yeah, come on in here. Sure, we're gonna be cool. Yeah, no. Hey man, we're going to lunch with your family. Cool. So how'd you do that again? Okay, cool. We all got it right. Hey man, listen, let's just leave right. This is what China literally told them. Said goodbye, and we're gonna show you to the door, and we see you at the competition ring. Let's compete.
Crazy.
And so China didn't have, this is so cool. The reason American companies can't move as fast, remember I told you the bigger you are, the slower you move, right? They have legacy. So this is the way we've been doing it for so many years. So they can't move and twist and turn. China didn't have none of that shit. They were just either phone companies or battery companies. So when they built the infrastructure, they built smarter, faster, efficient. So America takes 6 years to bring a new car into the market. China takes 12 months. So they learn to streamline it, structure it differently, design it differently, and it's privately owned, by the way. It's not owned by and matter of fact, Warren Buffett is one of the major investors in one of the top car companies.
Of course he is.
So and Bill Gates is over there too. Like, here you go. So when y'all like once you understand this game that you guys are playing, leverage tells you that if you're in the pro-black community, they don't want to talk to no white people. And I'm pro-black, so I know what they do. They don't want to talk to any white people. They're like, oh, white people are evil. They're the devil. Okay, cool. That's your problem. Leverage says that's the dumbest shit ever. If you can sit next to somebody and get their knowledge, stop acting like they need to love you. Gain leverage.
Yeah, fuck that.
Gain leverage. Get as much knowledge as you can, and then go in this world, compete. That very narrow game doesn't scale well, where you go, I don't like this race, I don't like that race, I don't like this race, I don't like this culture, I don't like this gender.
Stop.
Scale. When you want to scale, you can't practice the art of rejecting relationships. You got to practice the art of engaging relationships. And in that regard, a relationship, when is this relationship when it's distance? When do you move on? How do you strategically position yourself in that relationship versus that relationship? And if you watch China played the coldest leverage game. I'll post it's like a 38-minute discussion about how China's coming on board and how they're the juggernauts of the car industry globally. And if you see how they did it, it's all leverage.
Quick question for you. If someone is racist towards you, who has the leverage? You. Who's you?
The person that the person is executing racism to, because you can use that.
Put the microphone.
Put the mic, I can't hear you.
I said like the person that is receiving the racism, because when someone is in a state of racism, like they have blinders and biases, and so you're able to see that and then be able to pimp the situation if you cannot be hooked and allow you to not be emotional.
Church.
I had a question. Well, I guess maybe analyze if I used leverage in my benefit or not. Mm-hmm. So in this particular situation, I was working for a company and they were possibly looking for more of a yes person. And I was like, no, this is the right way how to do it. Because now that contract ended, but yet and still, I still have a reputation that of, excellence.
Okay.
So was that a good, use of leverage?
Okay, so I'm gonna make some
Did I-
assumptions. I have to make assumptions because I have to, in order to really gauge that conversation, we would have to I'll probably drill you so many questions that by the time we finish the questions, everybody at the house sleep. I would say your leverage started with taking a contract, right? Like if I see us or not ending the contract sooner. Terminate. For example, if I have a client that's really a chance of destroying my brand, I will possibly terminate that contract, right? Possibly. However, the first thing, before I even get to that point, the first thing I'm gonna always ask myself, anytime I experience friction, what can I learn from this? And sometimes it's us, sometimes it's you, right? Sometimes we think, oh, I'm here to save you, and you don't realize you're not really qualified to save them. Even though you think you can, but you're not. And so a lot of times those friction moments teach you how to be a better business person, because business is not about interacting with people who like you. Are people that have similar personality traits as yours, as well as I say the most non-diverse people I've ever seen are people who believe in diversity, because they don't believe in diversity. Diversity is learning that there's so many different ways of seeing the world. And if your business is going to navigate that system, diversity is learning how to adjust to clients and seeing when is this a cost to my brand and when isn't it, right? I got clients right now that get on my nerves, absolutely get on my fucking nerves, but I can actually use them as leverage. And then I have clients I let go in the past where they were cursing at some of my employees. And I was like, we had that situation just recently. A vendor wanted to introduce a new product to us. And Tennille was like, hey, we'll need to move the dates and times. And this person said, well, they said, because, those times are not going to work. They said, well, you said, and Tennille said, okay, I read the email. I said, Tennille, is something going on here? Like y'all personal or something? She's like, no, So Tennille try to use some fight team. You're like, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. Just to really try to show up to this. And the person doubled down. I said, Tennille, stop all communication. I'm done with them. They're a vendor. How the fuck they try to be right and you're a vendor? When I'm a vendor, I can be wrong a lot. Like, the sun is blue. They be like, it's yellow. You know what? I kind of see it. I kind of see it. I say, are we going to do this contract or not? So at the end of the day, it's like, for them to argue they were right, I terminated that relationship. Now, if I would have continued that relationship, I've already lost leverage. Because their behavior told me this is a bad idea. Right? So you got an experience. And here's the thing, going back to some of what Daniel was trying to imply. Let's not have these conversations as hand slaps. I think when you go through these things, that's the entry to your future wisdom. Because then later on you'll be like, yeah, I've seen that before. I'm not doing it, right? So I think you going through that experience is giving you long-term leverage, but short-term it didn't have. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I like this discussion thing we're doing right here. Because if you left this class or read a book and turn it into black and white, you're not in the same world. You're literally just trying to force your ideas in a world that's not receiving you, right? There's a requirement to be, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, is to build a healthy relationship with reality, and it hurts. It hurts because a lot of those relationships were disconnected because of trauma, pain, stories around your family. Sometimes when you connect to those realities, you feel like you're disconnecting from people you love. I don't know. Tone, I'm sure you've been through this, and Shakina, I'm sure you've been through this. Go to a family get together that you used to be cool with 5 years ago, and watch you don't talk as much. Because you're learning to move in such a way that when the family starts talking, you realize if I speak on this one, I'm going to cause an argument because they don't know what the fuck I'm coming from. So you go, no, I hear you. No, I hear you. I see what you're talking about. My sister's brother came to the door. Was like, yeah, y'all see what happened in that car in Piedmont, that Tesla truck when they got in a car accident? I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, something up with that. I'm telling you, something going on with that. I was like, yeah, you might be right. Are you gonna play some dominoes or what? Gonna get this game going? What's going on? If I would have said, what? I don't know fucking shit. What are you implying? Like, why do you need to have a need for conspiracy? Like, what are you suggesting? Are you so victimized? You see where I would have been, how I've been destroyed? Like, I would have just destroyed the family get together, and all of a sudden, he'd be like, I hate that motherfucking Nana. And so, in the end, it's like, this stuff, as you gain growth in this area, the reason entrepreneurs need other entrepreneurs, because we no longer think like everybody. It's painful at first. When you first discover it, that shit hurts, because you'll go in the room and be like, oh man, my favorite cousins. And about 15 minutes of the conversation, you're going, oh shit, I can't talk about this. I really can't. Like, my grandfather died, and they were sitting around smoking and talking about shooting each. I was like, got 10 more minutes left in me. Now, if they would have called me 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I might have been like, yeah, man, fuck these motherfuckers. I don't think like that. And as a matter of fact, when people come to me and say, this person did this, somebody at the gym came to me the other day and go, this guy I was dating, he did this to me. And I said, yeah, that's cool, and I can see where you're coming from, but let's talk about you. That's how my brain works. It doesn't work, oh yeah, the world's against you and you're a victim. It's like, no, I'm not gonna let you do that. If you're hurt, that hurt. And so you see how that separation starts to happen. So this entrepreneurial shit is not about just, when I say you gotta be this, not do this, you gotta wake up every day and be an entrepreneur, because if you play with this shit, it'll have you going crazy.
Yeah, I went to a Black Cannabis conference in Baltimore, and it was interesting because it felt like Oakland like 10, 15 years ago. So I kind of felt like I'm here from the future. Like, don't sell your house. And everybody's like, the crime, the black on black crime. Because at first I was like, I'm from California, and then I say Bay Area, and they go and they start talking about black on black crime. I was like, I'm from Oakland. And they're like, oh, okay, well, you understand. And like, yeah, let's not talk about this conversation. So there's this two Uber drivers, different Middle Eastern guys, and they're in there and they're talking to me. I'm from California. Oh yes, black on black crime out here and everything. And I'm like, what the hell you know about black on black crime? But I'm just letting them go and go and go. And I get to the end and I was like, if it's so bad, why you live here? Like, you moved down here from New York. Like, why you live here? And he's like, oh, my house looks like a mansion. I paid $142,000. And I'm like, yeah, you're not so worried about the black on black crime. And so within this conference, it was very hard for me to participate in the conference because it was like, oh, this is unfair and that's unfair and this. And it's like my ears are just bleeding. Like, I'm here, I'm like, I want to talk to the lawyer and I want to talk to the doctor. I want to hear about dosages and I want to hear about the legal aspects. Everybody else, I don't have no conversation with.
There you
and
go.
It's like, this is bad and this and that. I'm like, you guys don't understand what you have here.
Yeah.
Like, you do realize, like, I used to live in a chocolate city. I don't anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you have the opportunity to take care of this and you're still talking about, oh, like, it's like $1,400 a month for rent. And I'm like, I wish. I wish. Like, you're kidding me. Like, you guys don't have anything, like, you know what I'm saying? The streets are still clean. Y'all ain't got no homeless encampments around here. Like, I felt a little bad. 'Cause I'm like, West Baltimore looks better than the town? For real. Like, very limited, like, conversations that I could carry on because it's like, you're still looking for things to be fair. You know what I'm saying? You're still, like, tripping off of this stuff. You're still talking about, black on black crime. And I'm like, you guys are right. Like, you see what just happened to DC? Like, it's right there. But mentally, if you're still there, you're just still there.
Yeah.
Dope.
Well said.
I can't remember what Pharrell song it was because I was on a Pharrell kick today. But he starts one of the songs and he says, "The truth will set you free, but it's going to suck at first." and piss you off. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I felt, I was like, damn, isn't that appropriate for a Wednesday? It's 9:01. I think
Would you ask me your personal question? Let's go home for that.
that was a personal question.
Your personal question?
My personal.
Yeah, you
question.
work with entrepreneurs every day. Lob one of your questions up real quick.
Oh, you done put me on the spot.
Shit, D,
My
you do it to
brain
me
went
all the
into a
time.
different mode. Okay. So there's a aspiring, it's a couple of aspiring handbag companies here in the Bay Area, started by women, and when you ask what challenges, what's the key challenge in your business right now, it's going to always change. And one of the things that you hear often is an answer that was given to them, which is, I don't have access to funding. As a woman, as a melanin woman, right? Insert whichever melanin group you belong to. I don't have access to funding. And that is what is going on in my business. My personal opinion is, well, when you ask them, are you sure that that's what's going on in your business? What other things could be going on in your business? What I notice is that there's just not an awareness that there could be anything else. Because if I had money, this would be working, because it certainly couldn't be that the market is maybe rejecting my idea, or maybe there's already a rival good that's doing better than I'm doing. And so when you have people who can get acceptance into programs for an entrepreneur class, right? So let's say I want to come to Hope. I have an idea. There's nobody in here telling you can't come in, right? We don't make you pitch to get in here. And even if, and even in other places where you do have to apply to get in, a lot of times the barrier to entry is really low. And so I guess the question that I am saying the same thing often. And the same thing that I'm saying the same thing often. How do you, and maybe even in here, how do you help people get beyond funding? Because I think that that is a very hard thing right now.
Shout out to black women entrepreneurs, by the way. They've raked in $100 billion this year. Black women, period, couldn't start businesses till 1979. And then this year, black women entrepreneurs raked in $100 billion. So those probably weren't the ones that was crying about funding. They was using all the tools that we had, all the tools that we had growing up to figure it out, make it happen, make it work. Funding's not the problem. If you're stuck at funding, you then quit, because entrepreneurship is about scaling, and anytime something's in the way. Now, again, nothing's linear, nothing's polarized. Every business has different thresholds and barriers and reasons of why they need money when and when not. However, I've been around a lot of entrepreneurs like that who won't even start or won't get to first base because they claim money is a problem. That is completely a farce. Like, scale all the way down to where money's not an issue. Scale all the way down. Make one bag. Just do one thing. Internet is a motherfucker. AI have you 12 employees, and it's just you. So that's not as much of an excuse. That's not an excuse at all. Like, build you something. Build you a prototype or something. Get it to the market. Sell it. See if you can sell one. Then two. Then three. A lot of times we want glamorous shit. Getting funding is glamorous. Hey, listen how this sounds. Hey, Nana, I got some funding. Word?
I've been approved or validated.
You got funding? Meaning you got a stamp by somebody, and now you're immediately at the upper echelon of the world, and now that's status. Listen, investors don't give a fuck about that shit. They want their money back. So I need to see in you that the money I gave you is fuel. Like, it is fuel to a fire that's already strong and lit and hot and is going to burn for a long time anyway. Now it's fuel in certain situations. Money early could fuck you up. And high probability that it will. So, like, we got to get off, like, we have to get off funding. If you're a software company, software developer, and you developed a software and you got 200 people to give you a case study of that this is viable, and you already made $1,300 in 1 month off that case study of 200 people, then yeah, that's a different conversation. That's how, but like, that's not the answer. It's not especially not at the very beginning.
Real quick, before I even pour into this, any thoughts from the crowd before? Go ahead, Shakina.
So I was just thinking about, the minimal viable product. Like, everyone thinks they have a great idea until they bring it to the market and it fails. I made a whole ass t-shirt company and printed hundreds of fucking shirts and put my face on it and thought, well, I have over 100,000 followers and everybody telling me this is a good idea to make a shirt and they're going to buy it. And I think I sold 5. And I had to give all the motherfuckers away to the Goodwill because I was like, I ain't finna throw them out. Somebody gonna wear these goddamn shirts. And they gonna be fine
Homeless
shirts, you
dude
know?
like laying on the
And they
ground
were
with your
you
keynote
like
on
my
it.
character, over 100,000. Like I had, so it's like, but it was a bad idea, right? And so, and I learned from that. I have never made that egregious of a mistake again, okay? And like even in like my equipment purchasing or my hiring, I'm always thinking about like, okay, I'm a big dreamer. Your girl need to sometimes put a lid on some of these dreams and start thinking in reverse. If I do this, then what? And that saves me a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of stress. But I think that we get so caught up in the big pie in the sky thing that we don't get into the roots of where are all of the areas that it could go wrong or what could be improved upon because we're so fixated on it's impossible for us to be fallible and be wrong. And then I think that, damn it, I lost. Yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that. But I think that it's just really important to just remember that we're all fallible and that you gotta just start off small because that was the other thing with money. Like there was a podcast that I was listening to this week, and they talked about the psychology of money and how people think about and frame money. And I was sitting there like, yo, that was hella fire. And they said there are people that think about money as a way to leverage for buying things, experiences. There are people that use money to be able to buy into debt that will add value or perceived value. And then there are people that use money to make more money. Who are you going to be? Are you going to buy more secure debt? Or are you going to use your money to leverage to make you more money? And I think that we think that if somebody validates us and gives us money, it's going to make us more money, not realizing that the thought started off in the wrong pool. And so, like, I turned down $2 million this year because I knew I was not in a space to be investable. Like, I didn't even understand the concept of investing. 3 people offered me money. I was like, that's nice. My ego says, get it, girl, you make. No, put the lid on it because I knew that I'm going to damage so many relationships. I'm going to damage the credibility of my company because I'm trying to bite off more than what I could handle. And I don't know what to do with $2 million. And my ego is going to tell me that I do. And if I take this money, am I willing to bet it all and lose it all because I want to grow so fast that I'm going beyond my britches? Not to say that my decision was right or wrong to take the money. I chose not to. But I feel more confident in my position to know that the money that I have coming in, I know how to duplicate it, and I know how to do it on my own. So when I do go into a position where I accept money, it will be, okay, and I can do something more than what I already know how to do. And I think that it's really hard to get there if you don't know how to make money your damn self. How you gonna ask somebody else to spend theirs?
Anybody else have a different perspective or a different angle? Go ahead, Kaja.
Take whatever money people have for me. If I can get it, I'll take it. I have gotten down. I've gotten down to the minimum. I've got. if there's a pause in there, apply it. But I have gotten my costs so far down, so that's a good thing. But there were things 2.5 years ago when I was just getting started that I spent. They were large ticket items. And again, because I'm just getting to the point of monetization 2.5 years later, I still haven't recouped that money. So it's not, I don't think the funding is necessarily a barrier. It depends on what perspective you're holding the funding in. To reinvest in the business, yes, right? I was recording in studio. Now I record mobile. So I have a mobile setup. But I only have so many headphones, so many microphones, and the recording device can only hold so many. Maybe I want to upgrade to the next one so that if I want to go talk to a group of people, I have the means to do that, right? Or now the podcast this year has turned into a traveling podcast. Like I've gone to different cities to interview people, which raised a profile because I was able to get interviews with people at a higher profile. But I had to get there, I had to stay, I had to eat. Sometimes I needed a rental car. These are all the things funding can help me with. So I will take the money. Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
It was a bad joke.
For a little change, a little strange, for a little change.
You better charge that fucking $700 and stop fucking playing. I mean, she just literally just talked about the traveling and this. I'm up here thinking like. So the moral of the story tonight, y'all, I just need to charge more.
Right?
That's real.
I think, like with my business and just the journey we've been on, there's definitely been talks of offering money, but I think the most insightful thing it comes from the Reed Hastings podcast, where it's like, does your business work like on the most basic fundamental level? Like Cord said, like if you can't go to a flea market and sell a purse, if you can't go to Instagram and sell a purse, funding ain't your issue. Like, you know, like are you in the market, and is the market defines you? And I think sort of piggyback on just the theme tonight seems to be, you know, getting out of make-believe and staying in reality. And it's like, it don't matter how much money you got in the bank, how much money you got in your pocket. You either can sell a purse or you can't.
Man, blood.
So let me add something real quick. I was kind of playing the same space, which is we taught a class about inertia. Right? When that movement happens, or you know how to get that movement going, it's moving. This conversation can easily get hijacked by your ego. Mm-hmm. I believe I built the greatest thing in the world, and I believe you should want it. And yet you won't listen to the whisper of the market. So an investor is looking at you going, you're not listening to the whisper. Now you want to use my money to listen to the whisper of the market, right? Not going to happen, right? You know, every dollar you put in your business, you're investing. So even when Kaja saying, I spent this kind of money, I'm thinking, you invested in your business. And you're hoping to get a return back for that. And the highest return you can get in the market is your own company, right? More than you can get from the stock market. And so the reality is that you're in a game where you're investing and you're gambling and you're taking risk. You're not going in business to be right, to be rewarded, to be validated, to respect your truths, none of that shit, right? Basically. End of the day, you're gambling on an idea. And if you don't understand inertia, then first you need to learn that lesson before you start having conversations with other people. Going back to one thing that Shakina did say, is if Shakina hasn't built the inertia of scaling her business and you give her $2 million, I don't give a fuck what she tells to you, I don't care how hard she trains you, she's going to have some new shoes the next time you come train her because that's all she knows what to do. She don't know how to, like when the world gave Black Lives Matter $9 million, I wasn't mad at them girls for blowing the money on houses. That's not what they was in the game. They came up with a fucking slogan and you blessed them with value. Mm-hmm. Right? So they just did what they were supposed to do. If I see them tomorrow, I'm giving her a high five, be like, you good? All right, I'm gonna keep it going. So what I'm suggesting is like, this is an inertia game. If things are not moving, if you're not moving, you know when you're moving in the market. You'll know it. It don't have to be no, am I moving? Is this happening? Is it not happening, right? And matter of fact, you even know the difference between a hype cycle and a regular cycle if you're around other entrepreneurs. That's another thing about why this class is important. Entrepreneurship is not an isolated game. It is not an isolated. Isolation will kill you because I promise you, your brain plays tricks on you all the time. I'm telling you, my brain be having all kind of little trick games it plays on me, and I'm like, man, cut it out. So isolation, you know if you're in a hype cycle, because hype cycle is one of the things where my shit's hella hot on Instagram, but nobody in the neighborhood still will buy it. Nobody you run across wants to buy it. Or you go to a festival, right? You're at a festival, a farmer's market, and your shit's selling like hot fire. But if you leave that farmer's market, nobody buys your shit, right? These are things that will help you, because that's one of the reasons I tell people stay away from farmer's market. 99% of the time when I go to farmer's market, not saying it's not possible because based on math, it's always possible for this to be wrong. But most of the time, those are some trash ass businesses. And it's almost like, if you okay, if it's the kind of money you spend at Disneyland, you ain't gonna spend that shit in your neighborhood. Right? Like how products be crazy prices. You gotta spend $100 to get 2 snacks at Disneyland, right? You're not spending that in your own neighborhood the same thing, right? But you're at Disneyland. So you're psychologically buying into, I'm in this condition. When we go to farmer's market, people are kind of in a certain mindset while they're there, which gives your business the edge. But when you come out of that space and you go into a grocery store where people are moving through scarcity or familiarity or all these other different variables kick in, your product has no momentum. So the way you would know if your business is strong at a farmer's market, let's say the business farmer market work for you. This is how you know your farmer market business is working. You have a website. When you sell that product, you go home from the day on the farmer's market and your website is banging. Because they calling friends, they buying friends your stuff. They gotta get a couple of supplies so you don't run out on them. You know your product actually has momentum, and the farmers market is a good place to spark the process. But the farmers market is not a good place to stay because it's just not good business, right? So you know the momentum. Let's stop playing like it needs. And here's the thing too. Also too, it's the question of unfamiliarity. So one of the things I mentioned, this is my last comment, and see if Court wants to comment, then we'll go home. And by the way, next week is the last week, and we're going to have another discussion class. I like this discussion tone because I think, first of all, I think there's group intelligence. I love the way that you guys are pulling subjects and conversations apart and allowing us to have a conversation about it as opposed to just running through these lessons. But okay, going back. I talked to Shabisha about, she asked a question earlier about, some people feel intimidated by the class. This is my honest to God response, and I apologize for those of you who are sensitive. I got bitching you. I said, fuck them. And she said, what? I said, fuck them. She said, why? I said, because, when you're an entrepreneur, small shit don't stop you. If I see something's going to help me, it's a drive I have. I've already been through my journey to go, I want that. And when you're an entrepreneur, somebody can say, you got to climb that mountain and there's some spikes on that. You'd be like, okay, spikes. Okay, how do you get around the spikes? Okay. I was going to get cut a couple times. Okay, how bad is the cuts? Will I survive? Okay, well, how many people made it? Okay, so all right, I got the information I need. All right. Okay, who's done it before me? I mean, hey, bro, how'd you do it? But I'm going up that hill. No, I'm going up the hill. But the person be like, ooh, that hill's steep. It's dusty too, and it's getting dark. Oh hell no, I'm not. Can you keep a class where there's more light and sunshine and maybe a Sherpa that gives me drinks because sometimes I get thirsty. I'm not fucking with you. I'm not here to. That's something like it's like in even sports. Imagine somebody's he's built like an athlete or she's built like an athlete, and you're like, yo, I'm gonna make you a basketball player, and they be like, I ain't shooting like that. Then it is silly for me to build this class to say, well, how do we get that person interested in his sports and neglect all the people who want to practice? You get where I'm going with this? So in some cases, I just don't give a fuck. And some people who are asking some of these questions, it goes back to Danielle's point. They just need to go through that process and find out if it's for them or not. Because funding... can I be transparent as motherfucker? Like, this is the end of the year, so y'all can be mad and we be cool by January. But let me just keep it 100. Y'all know what the fucking funding is. Like y'all just seen a trend and y'all just jumped on the fucking bandwagon like, oh, I want some funding because everybody else getting some funding. Can I get some funding? Right? You don't know that game. You don't even know why .coms get money and why and where the funding is moving and why their motivations and what's incentivizing them and what the investor wants in return. Y'all think the investor about to give y'all $2 million? That you know that you're prostituting, right? And you just got to train how to prostitute long enough and still come out with your dignity. Because when they get in the car with you, they ain't going to the same destination you're going to. They have a destination called get rich, bitch. And you over talking about, but I have a passion and dream. I want to change the community. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. And matter of fact, they'll replace you after a certain point. They will literally vote you out of office, and before you know, your company's being ran by the outsider, and they will still tell the story of how Court was here one day. And we believe in Court's ideas, but they're going that way. So a lot of you guys are asking for funding, and you're weak. You're prostituting your innovation. So it's different if you understood both sides of the game, the psychology of the game, the strategy of the game, the business of the game, the longevity of the game, the history of the game, the intent of the game, and then you engage in that conversation, then we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. But when you're just following the popular trends of really validation over doing business, because that's what you're just trying to get validated, you don't realize you set yourself up to be fucked. You want to retain as much ownership of your company as possible. You want to be Too Short and Hammer selling your CDs and gain your own inertia where record companies collaborated with you and invested in you, where you walked away with $35 million for your first record deal because you already had inertia. You didn't need a record company. But for that person who goes to record company and say, bless me with some money, you do the same thing black folks have been doing in the record industry all this time. You're going to somebody and say, put me on, and it's a cost that goes along with that. So just this whole idea of not making your own investment and gaining your own momentum is fucking crazy trend that I get tired of hearing people trying to, well, how you think I should approach it? I tell you I should approach it. Stop talking to me. Shit. Okay, go ahead.
Before I forget real quick.
Wait.
We got some Hope shirts from 2 years ago.
Y'all want some shirts?
Y'all want some shirts? When you class is over, come to that box over in the corner and I'll find your size. And this is for everybody who came to class.
Yeah, y'all give away free shirts today.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, some of y'all do not I told Vic, don't go home and take off the rest of your clothes and wear my shirt and do your little YouTube videos. I don't want you to see that. Don't be destroying our brand. So, but for the rest of y'all, man, look here. Enjoy the shirts and stuff. I know Tom Vic, he's a little weird and stuff, but his wife loves him. Anyway, go ahead.
Thank y'all for participating. This was dope. I don't get to hear from y'all this much on a week-to-week basis, so this is pretty cool.
Give yourself a hand. But really,
It's
seriously, give
pretty
yourself a hand
cool,
for showing ownership.
This was dope.
And Danielle 4.0. So
I like Danielle 4.0.
Side note, I've been watching her grow for the last 2 years. She's been changing rapidly in the last 2 years. But I've been hitting compliments about her, and I haven't got a chance to witness some of it. And not only do I like the way she's speaking up, but I love her authority in the way you're speaking up. So that's all tight. Appreciate you.
I can't follow that up other than to say thank you as well.
Are we saying peace? Or is that what you're saying?
But she's.
I don't know how to close this. How I do it?
Oh no! I got this for you.
Okay.
As they say in Bangladesh. See you motherfuckers later. Peace.